The Force binds all things across the galaxy, connecting every living being in an invisible web of energy and destiny. For thousands of generations, the Jedi have studied this mystical field, believing they understood the fundamental nature of existence itself. But what happens when beings of pure technology, entities with no connection to the Force whatsoever, arrive from beyond the stars? What happens when sentient machines, locked in their own ancient war, crash into a galaxy already tearing itself apart? The answer begins with a scream across dimensions. The space bridge had been Cybertron's last desperate gambit, an experimental portal designed to give the Autobots a strategic advantage in their endless war against the Decepticons. Optimus Prime had ordered its activation only as a final resort, during a battle above Cybertron's dying surface where Megatron's forces threatened to overwhelm them completely. The massive arch of Cybertronian engineering hummed with impossible energies, tearing a hole in space itself. But Megatron had anticipated the maneuver. His forces fired upon the bridge at the exact moment of activation, destabilizing the portal's quantum matrix. Instead of creating a passage across known space, the bridge ripped through something far more fundamental, the membrane between universes. Reality screamed. Both Autobot and Decepticon ships were pulled into the maelstrom, their hulls groaning under gravitational forces that shouldn't exist. Optimus Prime felt his spark, the essence of Cybertronian life, surge with alarm as readouts across his ship's console flashed warnings in languages that shifted and changed. Beside him, Bumblebee's vocal processors crackled with static as the smaller Autobot tried to stabilize their trajectory. Optimus, the dimensional coordinates are completely corrupted. Ratchet's voice came through the comm system, thick with electronic distortion. We're not traveling through normal space, we're falling through the gaps between realities. All units, maintain cohesion. Optimus commanded, his deep voice carrying the weight of millions of years of leadership. We stay together, no matter what. The portal convulsed. Reality itself seemed to reject their presence, and the unified Autobot fleet scattered like leaves in a storm. Optimus caught a final glimpse of Megatron's flagship, the Nemesis, spinning away into a different vector of impossible space before his own ship, the Ark, was hurled into darkness. Then, with a violence that would have killed any organic being, they crashed back into normal space. But it wasn't their space. It wasn't their universe. The Ark sensors immediately began processing data from this new reality, and what they found made no sense. The stars were arranged in completely unfamiliar patterns. The ambient radiation signatures were wrong. Even the fundamental quantum constant seemed slightly offset, as if the universe itself operated on different rules. Optimus. Jazz's voice crackled through the damaged communications array. We've got incoming. Unknown ship configurations, but they're definitely military. Through the Ark's viewport, Optimus could see they'd emerged in the middle of a massive space battle. Ships of a design he'd never encountered, sleek Republic attack cruisers painted in red and white, were engaged with distinctly different vessels that bristled with weapons and featured a more utilitarian, almost corporate aesthetic. The Separatist dreadnoughts. A stray turbolaser blast, brilliant green energy that moved differently than any Cybertronian weapon, slammed into the Ark's port side. Alarms shrieked as hull plating designed to withstand stellar phenomena buckled under the unexpected assault. Evasive maneuvers. Optimus commanded, his hands moving across controls with practiced precision. The Ark twisted through space, its Cybertronian engineering allowing maneuvers that would have torn apart most ships. But they were damaged, disoriented, and caught between two forces that viewed them as unknown variables in an already chaotic battle. Below them, a planet loomed, crystalline structures jutting from its surface, glittering in the light of its sun. Christophsis. Though Optimus didn't yet know its name, he recognized the signs of a war-torn world when he saw one. We need to land, Ratchet reported grimly. Our energon reserves took critical damage in the dimensional transition. If we don't find a way to synthesize more power, we'll be dead in space within solar cycles. Optimus made the only choice he could. Take us down. Find somewhere remote, we need time to assess our situation before engaging with the local powers. The Ark's descent was anything but subtle. A vessel designed in the forges of Cybertron, blazing through an alien atmosphere, trailing plasma and debris, made for quite the spectacle. On the surface of Christophsis, clone troopers and Jedi alike paused in their battle against Separatist droids to stare skyward at the falling star that was like nothing in their databases. In the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, Master Yoda's eyes opened suddenly from meditation. He had felt something impossible, a presence that was not a presence, beings that existed outside the Force's normal flow. It disturbed him deeply. Troubling, this is, the ancient Jedi Master murmured. Arrived in our galaxy, something has. Something, not alive, yet not dead. Not machine, yet not flesh. Across the galaxy, in the shadowed depths of the Senate building's hidden chambers, Darth Sidious also felt the disturbance. Unlike Yoda's confusion, however, the Sith Lord's yellow eyes gleamed with dark interest. Variables. Unexpected elements in his carefully orchestrated plan. These could be useful, or they would need to be eliminated. The Ark crashed into Christophsis's crystal canyons with enough force to send seismic waves across the continent. For a long moment, there was silence as dust and crystal shards settled around the wounded vessel. Then, with a hiss of hydraulics and the whir of transformation servos, Optimus Prime stood. His 40-foot frame unfolded from vehicle mode, blue and red armor gleaming even beneath layers of crashed debris. His optics, brilliant blue with an intensity that spoke of unwavering principle, surveyed this new world. Behind him, other Autobots emerged from the wreckage. Bumblebee, smaller and more agile. Jazz, already scanning local radio frequencies and trying to make sense of the chatter. Ratchet, his medical protocols already identifying potential threats in this environment's composition. Ironhide, weapons systems active and ready for hostility. Autobots, Optimus Prime's voice resonated with quiet authority that had held his forces together through millions of years of war. We are far from home. We are in unknown territory, in an unknown galaxy, surrounded by unknown forces. But we are not defeated. We are Autobots. We protect. We endure. And we will find our way home. He didn't know that across the Outer Rim, on a Separatist-controlled mining world, another ship had crashed. He didn't know that Megatron had survived the transition, along with his most dangerous lieutenants. He didn't know that the Clone Wars, already a galaxy-spanning conflict, was about to become infinitely more complicated. But he would learn. They all would. If you want to see more characters enter the Star Wars galaxy, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. May the Force be with you. The first Clone Scout detachment crested the crystal ridge overlooking the crash site 3 hours later. Their helmet's HUD systems struggled to classify what they were seeing. The ship was clearly technology, but unlike anything in Republic or Separatist databases. And those figures moving around it. Command, this is Recon 7, the squad leader spoke into his comm, you're not going to believe what we've found. The Autobots had established a defensive perimeter around the Ark within minutes of landing, their tactical protocols adapting seamlessly to this new environment despite its alien nature. Ironhide had positioned himself at the northern approach, his massive cannons tracking movement across the crystalline landscape. Jazz monitored communications frequencies, his processors working overtime to decode the strange languages and military chatter filling the airwaves. Ratchet had already begun salvaging what he could from the Ark's damaged systems, his experienced hands moving with the precision of a medic who'd kept Autobots alive through countless battles. But it was Bumblebee who detected the approaching scouts first. The young Autobot sensors picked up the heat signatures cresting the ridge, small, organic, bipedal. Definitely not Cybertronian. His vocal processors clicked and whirred, producing a series of tones that the other Autobots immediately understood as a warning. Optimus Prime turned his optics toward the ridge, his tactical computers analyzing the new arrivals in microseconds. 12 beings. Humanoid. covered in white armor that bore sophisticated markings. Carrying energy weapons that registered as plasma-based, primitive by Cybertronian standards but potentially dangerous in numbers. Their movements were coordinated, professional, these were trained soldiers. "Hold your fire," Optimus commanded quietly. "They have not attacked. We will not be the aggressors." The clone troopers of Recon 7 stared at the massive robotic beings below, their fingers hovering near triggers but not yet committed to violence. Their training had prepared them for battle droids, for separatist ambushes, for hostile wildlife on 1,000 worlds. It had not prepared them for 40-foot-tall beings of living metal who moved with obvious intelligence and purpose. "Are those droids?" one trooper whispered. "Negative," the squad leader responded, his helmet's advanced sensors feeding him data that made no sense. "They're giving off energy signatures unlike any droid I've ever seen. And look at how they move, that's not programming, that's thinking." Commander Cody's voice crackled through their comms from the Republic forward base 10 kilometers away. "Recon 7, what's your situation? That crash site is showing energy readings that are off the charts." "Sir, we have visual on the crashed vessel and its occupants." The squad leader struggled for the right words. "Requesting immediate Jedi support. Whatever these things are, they're beyond our tactical assessment. Hold position. General Kenobi and General Skywalker are en route." Meanwhile, across the galaxy in the Sereno system's outer reaches, a very different crash site told a very different story. The Nemesis had come down hard on Raxus Prime, a separatist junk world that served as both shipyard and manufacturing center. The planet's atmosphere was choked with industrial waste, its surface covered in the discarded remnants of 1,000 civilizations' refuse. It was, in many ways, perfect for Decepticons. Megatron stood atop a mountain of twisted metal, his red optics surveying the landscape with calculated assessment. The crash had scattered his forces, but not as badly as the Autobot situation. Starscream had already reported in, as had Soundwave. They were damaged, low on energon, but operational. More importantly, they'd detected the massive droid manufacturing facilities that dotted Raxus Prime's surface. Lord Megatron, Starscream's voice carried its usual mixture of respect and barely concealed ambition. "This world is producing military constructs by the millions. Whoever controls this facility possesses considerable resources." Megatron's mouth plates shifted into something that might have been a smile. "Then we shall introduce ourselves to the local authority. I suspect they'll be very interested in what we have to offer." Soundwave's monotone voice cut through the toxic air. "Decepticon energy signatures detected in planetary database. Multiple ships approaching. Unknown configuration." The Separatist patrol, 3 Munificent-class frigates, dropped out of hyperspace above Raxus Prime within the hour. Their scanners had detected the unauthorized landing, and in a time of war, unauthorized meant hostile until proven otherwise. Battle droids were already being loaded into landing craft when the patrol commander received a transmission on an encrypted frequency that should have been impossible for anyone outside the Separatist hierarchy to access. The image that appeared on his view screen made him freeze. Megatron's face, angular, predatory, radiating menace, filled the display. "I am Megatron, leader of the Decepticons. I understand you are at war. I propose an exchange, your resources and knowledge of this galaxy, for technology that will give you absolute victory over your enemies." The transmission included a data packet. The patrol commander opened it, and his optical sensors widened as schematics flooded his screen. Weapon designs decades ahead of current Republic technology. Armor configurations that would make current battle droids obsolete. Energy generation systems that defied known physics. Within 3 hours, Count Dooku himself was en route to Raxus Prime. Back on Christophsis, the standoff continued until 2 Republic gunships descended toward the crash site, their engines kicking up clouds of crystal dust. The clone troopers visibly relaxed as the ships landed and 2 figures emerged, one older, bearded, carrying himself with quiet authority. One younger, more impulsive, his hand resting on the lightsaber at his belt. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker had seen many strange things during the Clone Wars, but nothing quite prepared them for the sight of Optimus Prime. The Autobot leader stood motionless as the two Jedi approached, his tactical computers analyzing their energy signatures with growing fascination. There was something different about these two, an energy field that surrounded them, connected to them, flowed through them. Not electrical, not thermal, but something his sensors struggled to classify. Something that seemed woven into the very fabric of reality itself. "Greetings," Obi-Wan called out, his hand raised in a peaceful gesture. His voice carried across the crystal canyons with practiced diplomacy. "I am General Obi-Wan Kenobi of the Grand Army of the Republic. We mean you no harm, but we must understand what you are and why you're here." Optimus Prime's optics studied the two Jedi carefully before he spoke. When his voice emerged, it carried a depth and resonance that made the clone troopers instinctively step back, not from fear, but from the sheer presence of it. "I am Optimus Prime, leader of the Autobots. We are not natives of your galaxy. We arrived here by accident, pulled through a dimensional breach during a battle with our enemies. We seek only to repair our vessel and return home. We have no intention of interfering in your conflicts." Anakin's hand dropped to his lightsaber, not drawing it but ready. "You're sentient. Not droids. We are autonomous robotic organisms," Optimus explained patiently. "We think. We feel. We choose. We are as alive as you are, though our existence takes a different form." Obi-Wan felt through the Force, trying to sense these beings' intentions. What he found disturbed him, not because there was darkness there, but because there was nothing at all. These beings existed completely outside the Force. They were holes in the fabric of existence, present but not present, there but not there. It was profoundly unsettling. "The Jedi Council will need to be informed of this," Obi-Wan said carefully. "Beings of your nature, your capabilities, this is unprecedented." "We do not wish to be catalogued or controlled," Optimus replied, his tone remaining diplomatic but firm. "We are refugees in your galaxy, not invaders. If your republic can assist us in finding a way home, we will be grateful. If not, we will find our own path." "It's not that simple," Anakin interjected, his impatience showing. "We're in the middle of a war. The Separatists control half the galaxy. If they find you first, they'll try to use you as weapons. And if you're as powerful as you look, then we will refuse," Optimus stated simply. "Freedom is the right of all sentient beings. We will not be tools of conquest for anyone." Ratchet approached from behind Optimus, his medical scanner still in hand. "Optimus, our energon situation is critical. We have maybe 72 hours of operational capacity left at current consumption rates. After that, we start going into stasis lock one by one." The Jedi didn't understand the terminology, but they understood the urgency in the medic's tone. "You need energy," Obi-Wan said, his mind already working through the diplomatic and practical implications. "We might be able to help with that. But in return, we need your cooperation. At least temporarily. The Separatists have a major operation planned in this sector. If they succeed, millions of innocents will die." Optimus Prime was silent for a long moment, his processors running through scenarios, calculating risks, weighing principles against pragmatism. It was the same impossible calculus he'd been performing for millions of years: when to fight, when to flee, how to protect without becoming what you fought against. "We will discuss terms," he finally said. "But understand this, General Kenobi, the Autobots are not mercenaries. If we fight, it will be because we believe in the cause, not because we are purchased or compelled." Obi-Wan allowed himself a slight smile. "I wouldn't expect anything less." High above Christophsis, in the meditation chamber of a Republic Star Destroyer, Jedi Master Plo Koon opened his eyes and spoke into his comm unit. "Master Yoda, I can confirm the disturbance you felt. There are beings on Christophsis unlike anything we've encountered. They exist outside the Force entirely. I do not know if this is a blessing or a curse. On Coruscant, Yoda's ears drooped slightly. Neither do I, Master PLO. Neither do I. And in the shadows of Raxus Prime, Megatron stood before Count Dooku's hologram, both leaders sizing each other up with the keen awareness of predators meeting for the first time. You interest me, Megatron, Dooku said, his cultured voice carrying obvious calculation. My master will want to meet you. Megatron's optics burned brighter. Then perhaps I shall meet this master of yours. But know this, Count, the Decepticons bow to no one. The pieces were moving into position. Autobots and Republic. Decepticons and Separatists. And neither side yet understood how profoundly this meeting of universes would change everything. The Jedi Temple on Coruscant rose above the planet-wide city like a monument to 10,000 years of tradition, its spires reaching toward the stars as if seeking wisdom from the cosmos itself. Within its highest meditation chamber, the Jedi Council had convened in emergency session. 12 of the Order's wisest masters sat in a circle, their faces illuminated by the holographic projections that floated before them, images of the Autobots captured by Republic surveillance, technical readouts that made no sense, and energy signatures that defied conventional analysis. Master Yoda sat with his eyes closed, his ancient face troubled. Master Mace Windu's expression was stern, his hands folded as he studied the data. Ki-Adi-Mundi, Plo Koon, Shak Ti, and the others wore varying expressions of concern, curiosity, and unease. Obi-Wan Kenobi's hologram stood in the center of the circle, his blue-tinted form reporting from Christophsis. Masters, I have spoken with their leader at length. Optimus Prime is remarkable. His commitment to protecting innocent life appears genuine. His warriors show discipline and restraint. But masters, they exist entirely outside the Force. When I reach out to sense them, there is nothing, not darkness, not light, simply void. Abominations, they could be, Yoda murmured, though his tone suggested he was testing the idea rather than embracing it. Created things, not born of the Force. Yet sentient they are. Troubled by this, the Force is. Mace Windu leaned forward, his deep voice carrying the weight of practical concern. The question isn't whether they're abominations, it's whether they're allies or threats. Obi-Wan, could they be separatist weapons? Some new droid design meant to deceive us? I don't believe so, Master. Their technology is unlike anything the Separatists possess. More advanced in some ways, though they seem unfamiliar with hyperspace travel and basic galactic geography. Their story of arriving from another dimension is difficult to accept, but their confusion about our galaxy appears genuine. Kit Fisto's tentacles swayed as he spoke. But can beings without the Force truly be trusted? How do we sense their intentions? How do we know when they deceive us? The same way we trusted beings before the Jedi existed, Obi-Wan replied carefully. Through their actions, their words, their consistency. Master Windu, you've often reminded us that not all wisdom comes through the Force. Anakin Skywalker's hologram appeared beside Obi-Wan's. The younger Jedi's enthusiasm was barely contained. Masters, I've seen what they can do. One of them, Ironhide, helped us repel a Separatist probe droid squadron. His weapons tore through their armor like it was paper. And their transformation ability, they can reconfigure their entire bodies in seconds. If we could understand that technology. Technology, always technology with you, young Skywalker, Ki-Adi-Mundi interrupted, though not unkindly. But technology without the Force to guide it can be as dangerous as a lightsaber in the hands of a child. With respect, Master, the Autobots have been at war for what Optimus Prime claims is millions of years. They've survived without the Force guiding them. Maybe we should consider that there are other paths to wisdom. The chamber fell silent at Anakin's words. It was a borderline heretical suggestion, and several council members shifted uncomfortably. Yoda's eyes opened, fixing on Anakin's hologram with an intensity that made even the projection seem to waver. Millions of years of war, you say? And still they fight. Perhaps without the Force, peace they cannot find. A cautionary tale, this may be. Obi-Wan cleared his throat diplomatically. Master Yoda raises a valid concern. I asked Optimus Prime about their war. He spoke of a conflict between the Autobots' belief in freedom and the Decepticons' belief in conquest through strength. It's ideological at its core. Not unlike our own struggle against the Sith philosophy, in some ways. Did you mention the Sith to them? Mace Windu asked sharply. No, Master. I thought it unwise to reveal too much about our internal conflicts until we better understand where these beings stand. Wise, that was, Yoda approved. But tell them we must, eventually. If Decepticons they mention exist, find them the Separatists might. Or worse, find them Sidious might. The unspoken name hung in the air like a curse. The mysterious Sith Lord who orchestrated the Separatist movement remained hidden, his identity unknown even to the Jedi Council. The thought of such a being gaining access to interdimensional technology or alien allies was deeply troubling. Shock Ti's calm voice cut through the tension. What do they want? Surely they have stated their intentions. They want to go home, Obi-Wan replied. They want to repair their ship and find a way back to their own universe. Optimus Prime has made it clear they have no desire to remain in our galaxy or involve themselves in our conflicts. However, they have a critical problem, they're running out of energy. Something called energon, which powers their bodies. They need our help to synthesize it or find an alternative, or they'll die. Convenient, Mace Windu observed dryly. They arrive claiming peaceful intent but immediately need our resources. It could be a manipulation. It could be, Obi-Wan conceded. But Master, I've spent hours with Optimus Prime. I cannot read him through the Force, but I can read beings through experience. He reminds me of you, actually, principled to a fault, willing to sacrifice himself for his beliefs, burdened by command. If he's deceiving us, he's the most elaborate liar I've ever encountered. Anakin spoke up again. We could help them with their energy problem and learn from their technology in exchange. Their weapon systems, their armor, their transformation ability, all of it could give us an advantage against the Separatists. Or give the Separatists an advantage if they fall into the wrong hands, Plo Koon countered. Skywalker, your enthusiasm for shortcuts concerns me. The Force provides what we need, when we need it. The Force didn't provide us with victory at Geonosis, Anakin shot back, his frustration showing. Clones did. Gunships did. Technology did. The Force guides us, but it doesn't fight our battles. Enough, Mace Windu's voice cut through the brewing argument. This debate is philosophical, and we don't have time for philosophy. We need a decision. Do we trust these Autobots enough to help them, knowing it might mean introducing dangerous technology into the galaxy? Or do we contain them, treat them as potential threats, and risk making enemies of beings who could be powerful allies? The council fell silent, each member contemplating the impossible choice. Finally, Yoda spoke, his voice carrying the weight of 900 years of wisdom. Help them, we must. But carefully. Openly. Honestly. If trust they value, then trust we must offer. But prepare for betrayal, we also must. Send Master Kenobi and Skywalker to negotiate. Resources they may have, knowledge they may share. But watch them, we will. Learn about them, we must. And if Decepticons arrive, we eliminate them, Mace Windu finished grimly. We can't afford to let enemy forces of that power level establish themselves in the galaxy. Agreed, Yoda nodded. But hope, I do, that Autobots truly are what they claim. Need more allies, we do. And beings who exist outside the Force, see them coming, Sidious might not. It was a chilling tactical observation. If the Sith couldn't sense the Autobots through the Force, they might be one of the few advantages the Jedi possessed in the hidden war against the darkness. Obi-Wan bowed. We'll proceed carefully, Masters. And we'll keep the Council informed of any developments. As the holograms faded, Plo Koon turned to Yoda. Master, do you truly believe they cannot be sensed by the Sith? Yoda's expression was unreadable. No, I do not. But hope, I do. Because if sensed they can be, and if Sidious reaches them first, he trailed off, the implication clear. The galaxy was already at war. The arrival of the Transformers threatened to make that war infinitely more complex. On Christophsis, Optimus Prime stood in the crystal canyons, watching the twin suns set over the alien horizon. Bumblebee approached quietly, his smaller frame casting a long shadow across the crystalline ground. The younger Autobots' vocal processors clicked and whistled, a question about whether Optimus trusted the Jedi. I don't know yet, Optimus replied honestly, his voice carrying the weariness of command. They seem honorable. But we've encountered honorable enemies before. The Decepticons were once our brothers, Bumblebee. They believed they were saving Cybertron, just as we did. Good intentions don't guarantee good outcomes. More clicks and whistles, what about their energy problem? Ratchet is analyzing local power sources. The Jedi have offered to help us synthesize energon from available materials, but that will take time. Time we may not have if Megatron has also survived the transition. Optimus paused, his optics scanning the stars of this unfamiliar galaxy. We're vulnerable here, old friend. Vulnerable in ways we haven't been since the early days of the war. And I cannot shake the feeling that we've fallen into something far more complex than a simple territorial conflict. Jazz's voice crackled through the comm system. Optimus, I've been monitoring their communications. This Clone Wars they're fighting. It's nasty. Whole planets being glassed. Millions of soldiers, clones, they call them, grown in factories, dying in battles across the galaxy. And they're using droids as soldiers too, but treating them like they're not alive. It's complicated. Everything always is, Optimus replied. Keep monitoring. I want to understand this galaxy before we commit to any course of action. What Optimus didn't know was that across the galaxy, in the industrial hellscape of Raxus Prime, a very different conversation was taking place. Megatron stood before a holographic projection of Count Dooku, with Darth Sidious's cloaked figure visible in the shadows behind the Separatist leader. The Sith Lord had not yet revealed himself directly, but his presence was unmistakable, a void of malevolence that even Megatron's sensors could detect. Your weapons are impressive, Dooku was saying, his cultured voice dripping with calculated interest. Your transformation ability is beyond our current capabilities. But what assurance do I have that you won't simply take our resources and betray us? Megatron's laugh was harsh, metallic. Because I am not a fool, Count. I am stranded in your galaxy with limited energon and no way home. I need your industrial capacity. You need my technological superiority. This is a mutually beneficial arrangement. When the war is won and your enemies are crushed, we can discuss longer-term arrangements. And these Autobots you mentioned? Sidious's voice emerged from the shadows, distorted and dark. They are your enemies. They are obstacles, Megatron corrected. Weak-sparked fools who believe in freedom and choice and other such delusions. They will undoubtedly ally themselves with your republic, which means destroying them serves both our interests. Sidious's yellow eyes gleamed in the darkness. Yes. Yes, I believe we can work together, Megatron. But understand, in this galaxy, the Force is supreme. Your immunity to it is interesting. But it also makes you unpredictable. I will be watching you very closely. Watch all you want, Megatron replied, his red optics burning with ambition. I've conquered worlds before. One more galaxy won't be difficult. As the hologram faded, Starscream approached Megatron with his usual mixture of respect and treachery. Do you truly intend to honor this alliance, Lord Megatron? These organics seem duplicitous. The industrial wasteland of Raxus Prime stretched endlessly beneath a sky choked with toxic clouds, its surface a monument to galactic excess, mountains of discarded technology, rivers of chemical runoff, and massive factories that consumed scrap and produced war machines with ruthless efficiency. It was here, among the refuse of 1,000 civilizations, that Count Dooku's personal solar sailor descended toward the largest manufacturing complex on the planet. Megatron watched the elegant ship land from atop a tower of compacted metal, his tactical computers analyzing every detail of the craft's design. Primitive repulsor lift technology, reliance on organic pilots, vulnerability to electromagnetic interference. This galaxy's technology was simultaneously impressive in scale and disappointing in sophistication. Still, what they lacked in individual advancement, they compensated for with sheer industrial capacity. The factories of Raxus Prime could produce millions of battle droids per cycle. If the Decepticons could access that production capability. Count Dooku emerged from his ship with the grace of aristocratic authority, his curved lightsaber hanging at his side more as a symbol than a weapon. He was followed by 2 Magna Guards, elite droids with electrostaff weapons, and, most intriguingly, by a massive figure that made even the battle droid seem fragile. General Grievous. The cyborg general was a fusion of organic and mechanical components, his quadruple arms and hunched posture giving him the appearance of a mechanical predator. When his yellow eyes fixed on Megatron, there was recognition there, one being of metal meeting another, though their origins couldn't have been more different. Megatron transformed, his body reconfiguring from his Cybertronian jet mode into his towering bipedal form. The transformation took 3 seconds, every component shifting with precision that made the Separatist droid's simple articulation seem crude by comparison. He stood at full height, deliberately positioning himself to loom over Dooku, though the Count seemed unimpressed by the intimidation tactic. Lord Megatron, Dooku greeted him with a slight bow that managed to convey respect without subservience. I am Count Dooku of Sereno, head of state of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. My master has given me permission to negotiate with you directly. Your master, Megatron replied, his voice resonating with barely contained power. The one who hides in shadows and speaks through intermediaries. Is he afraid to face me himself? Dooku's smile was thin and dangerous. My master is cautious, not afraid. He has survived for decades by understanding when to reveal himself and when to observe. Surely a warrior of your experience appreciates the value of reconnaissance. Behind Dooku, Grievous moved closer, his mechanical breathing creating a rhythmic wheeze that filled the toxic air. His vocabulator crackled as he spoke, his voice harsh and aggressive. You claim to be a warrior, Megatron. I have conquered over 100 Jedi. What victories can you claim? Starscream, standing behind Megatron, tensed at the perceived insult. But Megatron simply laughed, a sound like grinding metal that sent the nearby battle droid stepping back nervously. I have waged war for 4 million of your years, General Grievous. I have destroyed worlds, conquered systems, and faced opponents you cannot imagine. I am the founder of the Decepticon movement, the one who turned Cybertron's warrior caste into an army that brought our entire civilization to its knees. Do not presume to measure yourself against me. Grievous' eyes narrowed, his hand drifting toward one of his lightsabers, but Dooku raised a hand to stop him. Gentlemen, we are here to build an alliance, not to compete in measuring our accomplishments. General, perhaps you could show Lord Megatron our droid production facilities while I speak with his second-in-command? Megatron's optics flared with amusement. You wish to divide us? Very well. Starscream, accompany the Count. Don't agree to anything without my approval. He turned to Grievous. Show me these facilities, General. Impress me, if you can. As the 2 mechanical beings strode toward the nearest factory complex, Dooku and Starscream moved in the opposite direction, toward a command center overlooking the industrial sprawl. Soundwave remained near the Nemesis, his sensors monitoring all communications, his loyalty to Megatron absolute despite the dangerous game they were playing. Inside the factory, Grievous led Megatron through corridors lined with assembly stations where battle droids were being constructed at extraordinary speed. Automated systems pulled components from storage, welded them together, installed programming cores, and sent completed units down conveyors toward waiting transport ships. Thousands of droids per hour, millions per cycle, all produced to fight and die in the Confederacy's war against the Republic. Impressive scale, Megatron admitted, his sensors analyzing the production methodology. Though the units themselves are simplistic. They are expendable, Grievous replied, his tone suggesting he found the concept perfectly acceptable. We lose thousands in each engagement, but we replace them faster than the Republic can replace their clone soldiers. Attrition is our advantage. Wasteful. Megatron's disgust was evident. Each unit represents resources that could be better allocated. On Cybertron, we built warriors, not cannon fodder. And yet you lost your world, Grievous observed coldly. Perhaps efficiency is overrated when it comes to warfare. Megatron stopped walking, his full attention fixing on Grievous with an intensity that made the cyborg general's hand drift toward his weapons again. We did not lose Cybertron, General. We rendered it uninhabitable through the sheer magnitude of our conflict. There is a difference between defeat and mutual destruction. Is there? Grievous wheezed. From where I stand, the result is the same, homelessness. For a moment, violence hung in the air between them, two predators sizing each other up. Then Megatron resumed walking, and Grievous followed, both apparently satisfied that they understood each other's capacity for destruction. Tell me about these Jedi you've killed, Megatron said, his tone shifting to something approaching professional curiosity. What are they, exactly? Your organic commanders seem almost religious about them. Grievous' mechanical breathing quickened slightly, a sign of excitement, Megatron's sensors noted. The Jedi are warrior monks who serve the Republic. They wield lightsabers and claim to channel something called the Force, an energy field that supposedly binds all living things. They have limited precognition, telekinesis, enhanced reflexes. They are formidable opponents. But you've defeated them. 107 confirmed kills, Grievous confirmed with obvious pride. I collect their lightsabers as trophies. The Force makes them dangerous, but it also makes them predictable. They rely on it too heavily, trust it too completely. I am partially organic, enough to register to their senses, but mechanical enough to be unpredictable in my tactics. It gives me an advantage. Megatron processed this information carefully. And these Force users, can they sense us? The Decepticons? That is what Count Dooku wishes to determine. You and your warriors exist outside normal organic parameters. If the Jedi cannot sense you through the Force, you would be nearly invisible to their precognitive abilities. That would make you extraordinarily valuable to the Confederacy. And what would the Confederacy offer in exchange for such value? Grievous gestured at the factory floor around them. Everything you see. Production capacity. Raw materials. Energon synthesis, though we would need your specifications to produce it. Access to the galaxy's resources. And most importantly, targets. The Republic has facilities across thousands of systems. Destroy them, and you cripple our enemies while securing what you need to survive. They emerged onto an observation platform overlooking the largest factory complex. Below, an army of battle droids stood in formation, tens of thousands of identical units awaiting deployment orders. Transport ships lined the landing platforms, ready to carry them to battlefields across the galaxy. I will be honest with you, Megatron, Grievous said, his vocabulary modulating to something approximating respect. I am not like Dooku. I do not play political games or speak in diplomatic circles. I am a warrior. I recognize strength when I see it. Your Decepticons could turn the tide of this war. But I need to know, are you warriors, or are you conquerors? Megatron turned his full attention to Grievous, his red optics burning with ancient ambition. We are both, General. We fight for a principle, that strength should rule, that the powerful should not bow to the weak simply because they are more numerous. On Cybertron, the Autobots preach equality, freedom, the rights of all sentient beings. Weakness disguised as virtue. The Decepticons embrace the truth, that some are born to lead, and others to follow. That power is not something to apologize for, but to wield. Then we are not so different, Grievous replied. I was once a warrior of my people, fighting for our freedom against oppressors. Then the Jedi came, claiming to bring peace, but they brought only submission disguised as negotiation. I learned then that the galaxy respects only strength. Everything else is theater. Finally, Megatron said with something approaching satisfaction, an organic who understands reality. Meanwhile, in the command center, Starscream was having a very different conversation with Count Dooku. The Seeker stood before a holographic display showing the galaxy's political divisions, Republic territory in blue, Separatist holdings in red, contested zones in yellow. His tactical processors absorbed the information hungrily, calculating possibilities, assessing opportunities, seeing patterns that Megatron might miss. Your master, Starscream said carefully, remains hidden. Why? Dooku smiled, recognizing the Decepticons' intelligence immediately. Because revealing himself would give our enemies a target. The Republic believes the Separatist movement is legitimate political dissent. If they knew a Sith Lord orchestrated it all, they would unite against us with religious fervor. Mystery is a weapon, Starscream. As is betrayal, Starscream observed, his optics flickering. You betray your Republic. Megatron betrayed Cybertron's ruling council to start the Decepticon movement. I wonder, how many layers of betrayal exist in this alliance we're building? As many as necessary, Dooku replied without hesitation. Loyalty is for idealists and fools. The Sith understand that power is the only truth that matters. Alliances are temporary arrangements between those strong enough to be useful and smart enough to know when to dissolve them. Starscream's vocal processor created a sound that might have been laughter. You would have made an excellent Decepticon, Count Dooku. And you seem too intelligent to be Megatron's subordinate, Dooku countered. Tell me, do you share his vision for this alliance? It was a dangerous question, a probe for weakness in Decepticon unity. Starscream's primary programming screamed warnings about the trap, but his ambition whispered possibilities. Information was power. Alternative alliances were insurance. I serve Megatron, Starscream said carefully, because he is the strongest among us. But I am not blind to opportunity. What exactly is your master's interest in the Decepticons? He sees variables, Dooku explained, his tone suggesting he was revealing only what he intended to reveal. The war follows a plan, Republic and Separatist grinding each other down, preparing the galaxy for a new order. But your arrival was not part of that plan. Variables can be useful or catastrophic. My master wishes to determine which you are. And if we prove catastrophic, then he will eliminate you, Dooku said simply. My master commands powers beyond your understanding, Starscream. The Force is not mere energy manipulation, it is reality itself made manifest. Do not underestimate what a Sith Lord can accomplish. Starscream filed that information away carefully. Threats from organics were common, usually overconfident and easily dismissed. But there was something in Dooku's tone that suggested genuine capability. These Force users warranted further investigation. What does your master want from us, specifically? Dooku gestured at the holographic display. We want you to test the Autobots. Attack them. Force them to reveal their full capabilities. The Jedi will protect them, which will allow us to assess how these, unique beings, function in combat. Your battle with them will provide us data worth more than entire fleets. You want us to be your test subjects, Starscream translated flatly. I want you to fight your enemies while we provide resources and observe the results. You get what you need, energon, materials, targets. We get intelligence about beings who exist outside the Force. Everyone benefits. Except the Autobots, Starscream noted. Well, yes. But I assume you consider that an acceptable outcome. Starscream couldn't argue with that logic. And after this test? What then? If you prove as valuable as we hope, the Confederacy will provide sanctuary, resources, and targets indefinitely. If you prove disappointing, Dooku shrugged elegantly. Then we'll have learned that interdimensional beings are not as formidable as they appear, and we'll adjust our strategies accordingly. The conversation was interrupted by Megatron and Grievous returning from the factory floor. Megatron's expression, as much as his metal face could show expression, suggested he'd been impressed by what he'd seen. We have an agreement, Megatron announced. The Confederacy will provide energon synthesis facilities and raw materials. In exchange, the Decepticons will strike Republic targets of our choosing. Additionally, we will engage the Autobots at the first opportunity and eliminate them before they can establish themselves as Republic assets. Excellent, Dooku said smoothly. I will transmit specifications for energon production immediately. Our scientists will begin synthesis within the cycle. As for your first target, he manipulated the holographic display, highlighting a system in the outer rim. Christophsis. A Republic-held world where, according to our intelligence, your Autobot enemies have taken refuge. Megatron's optics blazed with satisfaction. Perfect. We'll need 48 hours to repair our ships and restore our warriors to full operational status. Then we'll show this galaxy what Decepticons are capable of. And we'll show Optimus Prime that even in a new universe, he cannot escape me. As Dooku's ship departed Raxus Prime, the Count activated his private communicator. The hologram that appeared was cloaked in shadow, but the yellow eyes were unmistakable. Master, Dooku reported, the Decepticons have agreed to our terms. They will engage the Autobots on Christophsis within 48 hours. Good, Darth Sidious's distorted voice replied. Let them fight. Let the Jedi protect these metal creatures. And let us see if beings without the Force can survive in a galaxy where the Force is everything. This will be educational. The hologram faded, leaving Dooku alone with his thoughts. He had set pieces in motion that even he didn't fully understand. Interdimensional beings, ancient wars, technologies beyond current understanding, all of it fed into his master's grand design. But Count Dooku was a Sith apprentice, and Sith apprentices learned early that every plan contained the seeds of betrayal. The question was never whether betrayal would come, but when, and from which direction. He smiled into the darkness of his ship's cabin. The Clone Wars had just become far more interesting. The Republic forward base on Christophsis hummed with activity as clone troopers fortified defensive positions and technicians worked to establish stable communication relays through the planet's crystalline interference. In a makeshift command center constructed from prefabricated modules, Optimus Prime stood before a holographic projection of the galaxy, his massive frame barely fitting inside the structure designed for organic beings. Obi-Wan Kenobi stood beside him, pointing out various systems and explaining the political geography of a galaxy at war. Anakin Skywalker leaned against a wall, his arms crossed, watching the Autobot leader with barely concealed fascination. Commander Cody and Captain Rex maintained a respectful distance, their helmets hiding expressions that alternated between wonder and military caution. The Republic controls the core worlds and much of the inner rim, Obi-Wan explained, highlighting regions in blue. The Separatists hold significant territory in the outer rim and parts of the mid-rim. Between us lie thousands of contested systems where battles rage daily. Optimus studied the display with the tactical acumen of someone who had commanded armies across an entire planet for millions of years. Your enemy has production capacity in the outer rim. They can replace losses faster than you can push into their territory. Classic attrition warfare. On Cybertron, we faced similar strategic challenges. And how did you overcome them? Anakin asked, genuinely curious. We didn't, Optimus replied with a candor that surprised the Jedi. Our war with the Decepticons lasted so long that we forgot what we were fighting for. Cybertron died, consumed by our conflict. That is why the Autobots learned to value life above territory, peace above victory. We will not make the same mistakes again. The words hung in the air, a sobering reminder that these beings had experience with warfare on a scale the Republic couldn't imagine. Obi-Wan exchanged a glance with Anakin, both recognizing the weight of those millions of years. Master Optimus, Cody spoke up formally, his military bearing evident even through his helmet. If I may ask, your warriors transform. They can disguise themselves as vehicles. That's an incredible tactical advantage. Have you considered using it to infiltrate Separatist facilities? Optimus finished. Yes, Commander. But that would require us to take sides in your war. Something I have not yet agreed to do. But you're accepting our help, Anakin pointed out, his impatience showing. We're synthesizing this energon for you. Ratchet and our engineers have been working around the clock. That makes you part of this whether you want to be or not. Optimus turned his full attention to Anakin, and the young Jedi felt the weight of ancient wisdom behind those blue optics. General Skywalker, accepting aid in survival is not the same as pledging allegiance to a cause. The Autobots have learned through bitter experience that intervening in conflicts we don't fully understand leads to tragedy. Yes, you are helping us. And we are grateful. But gratitude does not mean I will turn my warriors into weapons for your republic without understanding what we're truly fighting for. Freedom, Anakin said immediately. We're fighting for freedom against tyranny. The Separatists want to break away from the Republic and establish authoritarian corporate control over their systems. Isn't that enough? Is it? Optimus challenged gently. Forgive me, General, but I have learned to ask questions. Why do the Separatists wish to leave your Republic? What drove so many systems to rebellion? And these clone soldiers you command, grown in factories, programmed for obedience, sent to die in battles they have no choice but to fight, how is that different from the battle droids your enemies use? The question hit like a physical blow. Cody and Rex shifted uncomfortably, their identities as clones making the observation particularly cutting. Obi-Wan's expression became carefully neutral, while Anakin's jaw tightened with frustration. The clones chose to serve, Anakin said, though his voice lacked conviction. They're loyal to the Republic. Did they choose? Optimus pressed. Or were they created with that loyalty pre-programmed? On Cybertron, we created beings to serve specific functions, miners, builders, warriors. We told ourselves they were content with their roles, that it was their nature. We were wrong. That false contentment sparked the war that destroyed our world. Obi-Wan stepped forward, his diplomat's instincts recognizing the need to redirect the conversation. Master Optimus, you raise valid philosophical concerns. But we don't have the luxury of perfect solutions. We're fighting to prevent something worse, tyranny, oppression, the end of democracy as we know it. Sometimes you must choose the lesser of two evils. I have heard that argument before, Optimus replied. Megatron used it to justify the Decepticon revolution. He claimed the ruling council of Cybertron was corrupt, that only through force could true equality be achieved. He was not entirely wrong about the corruption. But his solution caused infinitely more suffering than the problem he sought to fix. Before anyone could respond, Ratchet's voice came through the comm system with urgency. Optimus, we have a situation. My energon synthesis is being sabotaged. The group rushed to the engineering section where Ratchet had been working with Republic technicians to create synthetic energon from local energy sources. The Autobot medic stood over a ruined synthesizer, sparks still flying from damaged components, his expression thunderous. Someone altered the quantum resonance frequencies, Ratchet growled, his scanners playing over the equipment. This wasn't an accident or a malfunction. This was deliberate. Could it have been a Separatist infiltrator? Obi-Wan asked, immediately suspicious. Negative, Ratchet replied. The sabotage required intimate knowledge of Cybertronian energy physics. this was done by someone who understands our technology. He paused, his optics narrowing. Someone who has worked with Energon before. The implication hit Optimus like a blast of ion fire. Decepticons. They're here. But we would have detected their arrival, Anakin protested. Our sensors cover the entire system. Jazz's voice crackled through the comm, not if they came in dark, staying in low orbit, using Christophsis' crystal formations to mask their signatures. Optimus, I'm picking up faint Cybertronian energy traces in the northern wastes. Could be residual from our crash, but it could be Decepticons conducting reconnaissance, Optimus finished grimly. Autobots, battle protocols. If Megatron is here, this base is about to become a war zone. Obi-Wan activated his comlink immediately. All units, this is General Kenobi. We have possible hostile contact. Prepare for. The warning came too late. The sky above Christophsis erupted with fire as Decepticon seekers dropped from high orbit, their atmospheric entry creating sonic booms that shattered crystal formations for kilometers. Starscream led the assault, his distinctive frame transforming mid-flight from jet mode to robot mode, his null-ray cannons already charging. Autobots. His voice boomed across the battlefield, amplified to ensure everyone could hear. Did you think you could hide from us? Even in this pathetic galaxy, the Decepticons will hunt you to extinction. The attack was coordinated and brutal. Starscream's null rays struck the Republic Command Center, overloading its systems and sending clone troopers scrambling for cover. Skywarp and Thundercracker flanked him, their weapons tearing through Republic gunships before they could launch. On the ground, Soundwave emerged from stealth mode, his minions, Laserbeak, Ravage, and Rumble, deploying to wreak havoc among the clone positions. And then, with a roar that shook the crystal canyons themselves, Megatron descended. His fusion cannon was already charged, and his first shot vaporized an AT-TE Walker completely, killing its clone crew instantly. His second shot destroyed a munitions depot, the resulting explosion sending shrapnel and fire across the battlefield. He transformed mid-descent, his massive feet cratering the ground as he landed directly in front of the Autobot position. Prime. Megatron's voice was triumph and hatred mixed into one. Did you think a dimensional barrier would save you from me? I am Megatron. I am your doom, in this universe or any other. Optimus Prime stepped forward to meet his ancient enemy, his own weapon systems activating with practiced ease. Behind him, the other Autobots formed a defensive line, Ironhide's cannons tracking targets, Jazz's speed already positioning him for flanking maneuvers, Bumblebee's plasma stingers charging, Ratchet's combat protocols overriding his medical programming. Megatron, Optimus replied, his voice carrying across the battlefield with the same authority that had commanded armies for eons. Your obsession knows no bounds. Even here, you bring only destruction. I bring order through strength. Megatron roared. Something you've never understood, Prime. This galaxy will learn what Cybertron learned, that the strong survive, and the weak perish. The clone troopers, caught completely off guard by the sudden battle between giant metal beings, struggled to find their footing. Cody shouted orders, trying to organize a defensive perimeter, but the scale of the combat was beyond anything they'd trained for. When a transformer moved, it was with speed and power that made even the largest Republic war machines seem fragile. Obi-Wan ignited his lightsaber, the blue blade humming to life. Anakin, we need to protect the clones and evacuate the civilian population. These beings are fighting a war we don't understand. We need to help the Autobots. Anakin countered, his own lightsaber igniting. If Megatron wins. If Megatron wins, we deal with one very powerful enemy, Obi-Wan replied grimly. If we interfere in their conflict without understanding it, we might make enemies of both sides. Master Optimus was right to question our motives. We need to think about this carefully. But thinking carefully was a luxury the battlefield didn't offer. Optimus and Megatron collided with a force that sent shockwaves across the crystal plains. Their combat was brutal and efficient, millions of years of fighting each other meant each knew the other's tactics intimately. Optimus's ion blaster met Megatron's fusion cannon, energy weapons creating explosions that would have destroyed smaller beings. They grappled hand to hand, their servos straining, each trying to gain the advantage. "You're weak, Prime." Megatron snarled, his faceplate mere inches from Optimus's. "Weakened by your principles, your mercy, your pathetic concern for lesser beings. And you're consumed by hate," Optimus countered, using Megatron's own momentum to throw him backward. "It blinds you to everything else. Even here, in a galaxy that needs leaders, you only know how to destroy." Starscream, meanwhile, had engaged Jazz and Bumblebee, his superior firepower forcing the smaller Autobots to use speed and tactics to survive. His null rays fired in calculated bursts, each shot aimed to disable rather than destroy. Decepticons didn't waste resources if they could help it. "You pathetic Autobots." Starscream cackled, his voice dripping with condescension. "Still clinging to Prime's delusions. When we're done here, this galaxy will know the Decepticon name. We'll strip their worlds of resources and rebuild Cybertron from their ashes." Jazz transformed mid-combat, his vehicle mode speed allowing him to dodge a null ray blast by centimeters. "Big talk for someone who's always second fiddle to Megatron," he taunted, his own photon rifle returning fire. The insult hit its mark. Starscream's pride was his greatest weakness, and he diverted from tactical efficiency to pursue Jazz personally, his weapon's fire becoming more aggressive, less controlled. It was exactly what Jazz had intended, create chaos in Decepticon formations by exploiting their personalities. Ironhide faced off against Soundwave, the two warriors circling each other with professional respect. Soundwave's sonic weapons created disorienting frequencies that disrupted Autobot sensors, while Ironhide's cannons fired explosive rounds that Soundwave's minions had to intercept. It was a stalemate between two of the most experienced combatants on their respective sides. And through it all, the Republic forces tried desperately to adapt. Captain Rex led his men in a flanking maneuver, trying to get clear shots at the Decepticons' joints and optical sensors. The clone troopers' blaster fire pinged harmlessly off Cybertronian armor for the most part, but concentrated fire on vulnerable points could cause damage. Rex had fought too many battles to be completely useless, even against enemies this far beyond his experience. Anakin made a decision. He force-jumped toward Starscream, his lightsaber aimed at the Seeker's wing assembly. If he could disable the Decepticons' flight capability, they might gain an advantage. His blade made contact, the plasma cutting through Cybertronian metal, and Starscream shrieked in pain and fury. "You dare!" Starscream spun, his null ray charging. What manner of primitive weapon? Obi-Wan tackled Anakin out of the blast radius, both Jedi rolling to safety as the null ray tore through the ground where they'd been standing. "Anakin, that was reckless." "It worked, didn't it?" Anakin shot back, already looking for another opening. But Starscream's attention was now focused on the Jedi, his tactical computers analyzing these small organic beings who wielded energy blades and moved with impossible speed. Interesting, he mused, his weapon tracking their movements. The Force users Grievous mentioned. "Let's see if you're as formidable as advertised." The battle raged across Christophsis, Republic and Autobot forces defending against Decepticon assault, while the planet's civilian population fled in terror. This wasn't a battle for territory or resources, this was something primal, something ancient, a war that had crossed dimensional boundaries and now threatened to consume everything around it. And watching from orbit, on a cloaked Separatist frigate, Count Dooku observed the battle with calculated interest. His master's plan was unfolding perfectly. The Transformers were revealing their capabilities. The Jedi were engaging. Data was being collected. "Magnificent," Dooku murmured. "Simply magnificent." The Clone Wars had just entered a new phase, and nobody, not the Republic, not the Separatists, not even the Transformers themselves, fully understood what that meant yet. The Battle of Christophsis had devolved into chaos that defied conventional military doctrine. Clone troopers scrambled through crystal canyons, trying to establish defensive positions against enemies that could transform into jets and tanks within seconds. Republic gunships attempted strafing runs against Decepticons whose armor shrugged off turbolaser fire designed to penetrate capital ship hulls. And in the center of it all, Optimus Prime and Megatron continued their eternal duel, two titans whose combat shook the very ground. General Obi-Wan Kenobi coordinated the Republic response from a hastily established fallback position, his tactical displays showing casualty reports that climbed with each passing moment. Commander Cody stood beside him, helmet removed, his face grim as he processed the impossible situation. "General, our weapons are largely ineffective against their armor," Cody reported, his voice steady despite the dire circumstances. "Concentrated fire from multiple squads can damage their joints and sensors, but it takes too much firepower to disable even one of them. We're losing men trying to provide fire support for the Autobots." "Then pull back our forces," Obi-Wan ordered immediately. "Focus on evacuation of civilian populations and protecting our supply lines. This is the Transformers' battle, we cannot win it for them." Anakin's voice crackled through the calm from his position near the primary combat zone. "Master, we can't just abandon them. The Autobots are outnumbered and—" "The Autobots are holding their own," Obi-Wan interrupted firmly. "And our interference may be causing more harm than good. Anakin, I need you to trust my judgment on this." There was a pause, then reluctant acknowledgement. Anakin Skywalker had never been good at standing aside during a fight, but he understood tactical reality when forced to confront it. On the battlefield, Optimus Prime parried a devastating blow from Megatron's fusion cannon, the impact sending sparks cascading from his arm plating. His HUD showed damage reports across multiple systems, his right servo had a hairline fracture, his energon reserves were at 63%, and his transformation cog had taken minor damage that would affect his vehicle mode's performance. But Megatron was damaged too. Optimus's ion blaster had scorched deep gouges in his chest armor, and one of his shoulder-mounted missiles was completely offline. They were evenly matched, as they had been for millions of years. Neither could gain a decisive advantage without taking catastrophic damage themselves. "You're slowing down, Prime," Megatron taunted, though his voice carried an edge of exertion. "Age finally catching up with you?" "We're the same age, Megatron," Optimus replied, deflecting another strike. "But unlike you, I don't let hatred make me reckless." Their weapons locked, servos straining against servos, optics blazing mere feet apart. Around them, the battle continued, Autobots and Decepticons engaged in deadly combat that paid no heed to the organic beings scrambling for cover. "This galaxy will be mine," Megatron growled. "I've already made alliances. The Separatists recognize strength when they see it. They've offered me armies, resources, industrial capacity beyond anything Cybertron possessed. While you beg scraps from the Republic, I will conquer." The revelation made Optimus's tactical computers race through implications. "You've allied with the Separatists. Megatron, you don't understand this galaxy's politics, you're being used." "I am using them." Megatron roared, throwing Optimus backward with a surge of strength. "They think they're recruiting a weapon. They don't understand they've invited a conqueror into their midst. When this war is over, when Republic and Separatist have exhausted each other, the Decepticons will sweep across this galaxy like the rust plague across Cybertron." Optimus recovered his footing, his processors analyzing Megatron's strategy with growing concern. His old enemy wasn't thinking tactically, he was thinking dynastically. The Decepticons intended to use the Clone Wars to position themselves for total galactic conquest. "I won't let that happen," Optimus stated firmly. "You don't have a choice," Megatron replied, his fusion cannon charging for another shot. "You're low on energon, your forces are scattered, and you're dependent on Republic charity for survival. You've already lost, Prime. You just don't know it yet." The fusion cannon fired, but Optimus was already moving. His combat protocols, refined over millions of years, allowed him to predict Megatron's tactics with near-perfect accuracy. He rolled left, transformed mid-movement into his vehicle mode, and accelerated directly toward Megatron at ramming speed. The impact would have destroyed a lesser being. Megatron absorbed it with his characteristic durability, but the force still sent him stumbling backward, his stabilizers struggling to maintain balance on the crystal-strewn ground. Optimus transformed back, his fist connecting with Megatron's faceplate before the Decepticon leader could recover. "I am not defeated, Megatron. I have survived longer than you will ever admit. And I will not allow you to visit the horrors of Cybertron upon an innocent galaxy." Nearby, Jazz had managed to get behind Starscream's position, his photon rifle targeting the Seeker's damaged wing assembly where Anakin's lightsaber had cut through. One well-placed shot, and Starscream would be grounded, his aerial superiority neutralized. But before Jazz could fire, Soundwave's minion Laserbeak swooped in, the condor-like Cybertronian's energy weapons forcing Jazz to break off his attack. The smaller Autobot transformed and dodged, but the opportunity was lost. Starscream, realizing how close he'd come to being disabled, pulled back to a more defensive position. "Soundwave, eliminate that pest." Starscream commanded, his pride wounded by how close Jazz had come to crippling him. Soundwave's response was characteristically economical. "Acknowledged." His sonic weapons shifted frequency, targeting Jazz specifically with disorienting waves that disrupted the Autobot sensor array. Ironhide, seeing Jazz in trouble, redirected his fire toward Soundwave. "Hang on, Jazz. I'm coming." His heavy cannon spoke with authority, forcing Soundwave to divert attention from Jazz to defend himself. Bumblebee, meanwhile, had drawn the attention of Rumble and Frenzy, Soundwave's smaller minions who specialized in seismic disruption. The two Decepticons worked in tandem, their piledriver arms slamming into the crystalline ground and creating shockwaves that destabilized footing and made precise movement nearly impossible. Bumblebee's vocal processors clicked urgently, he was calling for support, his smaller frame struggling against two opponents whose specialty was making larger enemies lose their advantage. Ratchet moved to assist, his plasma blaster providing covering fire while medical protocols insisted he preserve his primary function as healer rather than warrior. The battle had reached a stalemate, neither side could gain decisive advantage without risking catastrophic losses. The Autobots couldn't retreat without abandoning the Republic forces that had helped them. The Decepticons couldn't commit to a full assault without leaving themselves vulnerable to the coordinated fire from clone troopers and Jedi. It was Obi-Wan Kenobi who broke the stalemate, though not through violence. The Jedi Master had been observing the battle patterns, using the Force to sense the flow of combat in ways his tactical displays couldn't show. He noticed something crucial: the Decepticons kept glancing toward the northern ridge, where their ship presumably waited in concealment. They had an extraction point, a fallback position if things went poorly. "Anakin," Obi-Wan spoke into his comlink with sudden urgency. "The ridge at coordinates 773. Can you get there?" "What's there?" Anakin replied, already moving. "Their exit strategy. If we threaten it, they'll have to choose between continuing the assault or protecting their retreat. Either way, we break the stalemate." Anakin didn't need further explanation. He force-sprinted toward the northern ridge, his enhanced speed carrying him across terrain that would have taken clone troopers minutes to traverse. Obi-Wan moved to support him, both Jedi converging on the position where Decepticon energy signatures were faint but detectable. They found the Nemesis hidden in a crystal canyon, its cloaking systems active but not perfect. The massive ship was damaged but operational, its weapons systems on standby, ready to provide fire support or cover for Decepticon evacuation. "If we can damage their ship," Anakin said, his lightsaber igniting, "we trap them here. Or force them to make a choice," Obi-Wan corrected. "Which might be enough." The two Jedi began their assault on the Nemesis, their lightsabers cutting into the ship's external systems, targeting communications arrays and sensor clusters. They couldn't destroy the vessel, it was far too large and well-armored, but they could hurt it, make it vulnerable. On the battlefield, Soundwave was the first to detect the threat. "Alert, Nemesis under attack." Organic hostiles compromising critical systems. Megatron's optics flared with fury. Without the Nemesis, the Decepticons would be stranded on Christophsis with limited energon and no way to reach Separatist support. The ship was irreplaceable in this galaxy where Cybertronian manufacturing didn't exist. Starscream. Soundwave. Withdraw and secure the Nemesis. Megatron commanded, his strategic processors overriding his desire to destroy Prime. We end this now. Withdrawing. Starscream's voice dripped with contempt even as he obeyed. But Megatron, we have them. We have nothing if we lose our ship. Megatron roared. Pull back. Now. The Decepticons disengaged with military precision, their retreat covered by Starscream's null rays and Soundwave's sonic weapons creating barriers of destructive energy that the Autobots couldn't easily penetrate. Within moments, they were transforming and accelerating toward the northern ridge. Optimus Prime watched them go, his tactical computers already calculating whether to pursue. His warriors could chase them, potentially destroy the Nemesis, trap the Decepticons on Christophsis. But that would mean more casualties among the Republic forces caught in the crossfire. It would mean turning a skirmish into a war of extermination. Autobots, hold position, Optimus commanded. Let them retreat. But Optimus, Ironhide protested, his weapons still tracking Decepticon signatures, we've got them on the run. We could create a bloodbath, Optimus interrupted firmly. This battle is over. We've defended our position. That's enough. The Decepticons reached the Nemesis to find Anakin and Obi-Wan still harrying the ship, but Megatron's arrival changed the equation immediately. His fusion cannon fired a warning shot that came close enough to both Jedi to make them reconsider their assault. Clever, Jedi, Megatron acknowledged grudgingly. You fight like Cybertronians, target the strategic assets, force tactical withdrawal. But this is merely a reprieve. We will return. And next time, I'll bring enough firepower to level this entire planet. The Nemesis's engines roared to life, crystal formations shattering from the thrust as the massive ship lifted into the sky. Within seconds, it had accelerated beyond visual range, leaving only sensor traces and a battlefield scattered with debris. Silence fell across Christophsis, broken only by the settling of dust and the crackle of damaged equipment. Clone troopers emerged from cover cautiously, weapons ready but no longer needed. The Autobots stood in defensive formation, their sensors confirming that Decepticon signals had left the planet's atmosphere. Optimus Prime surveyed the battlefield, the destroyed Republic equipment, the wounded clones being tended by medics, the scorched earth where fusion cannons and ion blasters had carved destruction. This wasn't his war, but he'd been forced to fight it anyway. Obi-Wan and Anakin returned to the primary position, both Jedi showing signs of exhaustion but uninjured. Obi-Wan approached Optimus carefully, his expression troubled. Master Optimus, we need to talk about what just happened. We do, Optimus agreed. But first, I need to see to my warriors. Ratchet, damage reports. The Autobot medic moved among his comrades, scanners active. Jazz has minor sensor damage. Bumblebee took some hits to his power core housing, nothing critical but he'll need repairs. Ironhide is fine, naturally. You took the worst of it, Optimus. That duel with Megatron stressed your frame considerably. I'll manage, Optimus replied. What about energon reserves? Ratchet's expression darkened. Down to 48% combined. That battle consumed more than we anticipated. If we're forced to fight like that again soon. He didn't need to finish the sentence. They all understood. The Autobots were running out of time. Commander Cody approached, his helmet tucked under his arm, his face showing the strain of commanding troops in a battle beyond their capabilities. General Kenobi, casualty reports are coming in. We lost 37 troopers. Another 53 wounded. 3 gunships destroyed, 2 walkers disabled. This was... I've never seen anything like this. Nor have I, Commander, Obi-Wan admitted quietly. Nor have I. Captain Rex joined them, his armor scorched from a near miss by Decepticon weapons. Sir, the men are asking questions. What were those things? Why are we protecting them? And what happens when they come back? It was Optimus Prime who answered, his voice carrying across the battlefield with the authority of ancient experience. Captain, your men fought bravely against an enemy they couldn't possibly prepare for. The Decepticons are not mere machines, they are warriors who have perfected combat over millions of years. That your forces survived at all speaks to your courage and training. Rex seemed surprised by the acknowledgement, but grateful. With respect. Master Optimus. What are you going to do now? Will you leave? Try to find another planet where the Decepticons can't find you. Running has never saved anyone from the Decepticons, Optimus replied. They will pursue us across this galaxy until one of us is destroyed. That is the nature of our conflict. He turned to Obi-Wan. General Kenobi, I owe you an apology. An apology? Obi-Wan's surprise was evident. You offered us aid, and I responded with philosophical questions and reluctance. I was correct to question your war, but I was wrong to suggest that those questions absolved me of responsibility. Megatron has allied with your Separatists. He intends to conquer this galaxy. That makes stopping him a necessity, not a choice. Then you'll fight with us? Anakin asked, hope clear in his voice. I will, Optimus confirmed. But on my terms. The Autobots are not soldiers in your army. We are allies fighting a common enemy. We will not follow orders blindly, and we will not compromise our principles for tactical advantage. If the Republic can accept that, then yes, we will fight. Obi-Wan extended his hand, a human gesture, but one that translated across species. We can accept that, Master Optimus. Welcome to the Clone Wars. I wish the circumstances were different. Optimus's massive hand carefully clasped Obi-Wan's, dwarfing it but showing remarkable gentleness. As do I, General. As do I. High above Christophsis, aboard a Republic Star Destroyer, Admiral Wolf Yularen watched the censored data from the battle with a mixture of awe and concern. He activated his holocom to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. Master Windu's hologram appeared, his expression stern. Admiral. Master Windu, you need to see this battle data. The Transformers, they're unlike anything we've faced. Their firepower exceeds our heavy artillery. Their durability makes our armor look like tissue paper. And they're sentient, strategic, experienced. If these Decepticons ally with the Separatists. We know, Windu replied grimly. We've been monitoring the situation. The Autobots have agreed to fight with us. According to General Kenobi, yes. But Master Windu, what if they turn on us? What if this is all manipulation? Windu was silent for a moment before responding. Then we'll deal with that when it happens. Right now, we need every advantage we can get. The Separatists are planning something big, we can feel it through the Force. Having the Autobots on our side might be the only thing that keeps us alive. The hologram faded, leaving Yularen alone with his thoughts and his fears. On Raxus Prime, the Nemesis limped into dock at the Separatist facility, sparks trailing from damaged systems. Megatron transformed and strode from his ship, fury radiating from every servo. Count Dooku was waiting, his expression calm despite the obvious damage. Lord Megatron, your first engagement was informative. Informative? Megatron's voice could have melted steel. We were forced to retreat. The Jedi interfered, the Autobots held their ground, and we gained nothing. On the contrary, Dooku replied smoothly, we gained extensive data on both Transformer and Jedi combat capabilities. We learned that you can be outmaneuvered through strategic thinking rather than brute force. And most importantly, we confirmed that your presence forces the Autobots to align with the Republic. He smiled coldly. Exactly as my master predicted. Megatron's optics narrowed. Your master plays a dangerous game, Count. Don't forget that I play my own games as well. I wouldn't dream of forgetting, Dooku assured him. Now, shall we discuss your next target? I believe the planet Ryloth is preparing a relief effort. It would be unfortunate if those supplies never arrived. The Clone Wars had just become a three-sided conflict, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Jedi Temple's meditation chamber had become a war room. Masters Yoda, Mace Windu, Plo Koon, and Ki-Adi-Mundi sat in grim conference as holographic reports from across the galaxy painted an increasingly dire picture. The Separatist offensive had intensified dramatically in the weeks following Christophsis, coordinated strikes on Republic supply lines, strategic withdrawals that lured clone armies into traps, and most troubling, technological upgrades to Separatist battle droids that made them significantly more dangerous. But it was Master Plo Koon's report that commanded the Council's immediate attention. 3 Republic convoys destroyed in the Outer Rim, Plo's hologram stated, his voice heavy with concern. No survivors. Forensic analysis of the wreckage shows weapon signatures unlike anything in Separatist arsenals. Energy discharge patterns consistent with what we observed on Christophsis. Decepticons, Mace Windu said flatly. They're not just allied with the Separatists, they're actively hunting our forces. Worse than that, Ki-Adi-Mundi added, manipulating the holographic display to show tactical patterns. Look at their targeting priorities. They're not attacking military installations. They're hitting supply convoys, medical transports, relief operations. They're strangling our logistics. Yoda's ears drooped as he studied the data. Learn from their own war, they have. Resources, not territory, determine victory in conflicts that span star systems. Smart, Megatron is. Dangerous, this makes him. We need the Autobots fully integrated into our military structure, Windu stated firmly. They're the only force capable of countering Decepticon attacks effectively. General Kenobi's reports indicate they've been reluctant to expand their involvement beyond defensive operations. Perhaps because they understand something we do not, Yoda murmured. Caution, Optimus Prime shows. Wisdom in caution, there often is. Before Windu could respond, the chamber doors opened and Anakin Skywalker entered, moving with urgent purpose. His face was flushed with exertion, suggesting he'd run from the hangar bay. Masters, I apologize for the interruption, but you need to hear this directly from me. Optimus Prime has agreed to help us liberate Ryloth. The council members exchanged glances. Ryloth, the Twi'lek homeworld, had been under Separatist occupation for months. The population suffered under Wat Tambor's brutal administration, and Republic attempts to break the blockade had failed repeatedly. It was a humanitarian crisis as much as a military one. Agreed, has he? Yoda leaned forward with interest. Condition, did he set? Yes, Master. He wants assurances that the Republic will provide protection for Ryloth's civilians during the liberation. No scorched earth tactics, no orbital bombardments that might harm innocents. And he wants guarantees that once freed, Ryloth won't simply be occupied by Republic forces. The Twi'leks must be allowed to govern themselves. Windu's expression darkened. He's dictating terms to the Republic now. He's stating his principles, Anakin countered, his voice carrying an edge that suggested he sympathized with Optimus's position. Master, I've spent weeks working alongside the Autobots. They're not like us. They don't see conflicts in terms of political advantage or strategic positioning. They see beings who need protection. Optimus won't commit his warriors to an operation unless he believes it serves a just cause. And liberating Ryloth from Separatist occupation isn't just. Ki-Adi-Mundi challenged. It is, Anakin agreed. But Optimus wants to make sure we're liberating it for the Twi'lek's sake, not for the Republic's strategic interests. There's a difference. Yoda's expression softened into something approaching approval. Wise, he is. Questions we should ask ourselves, perhaps. Fight for what, do we? territory, power, or beings who suffer. We fight for the Republic, Windu stated firmly. For democracy, for order, for peace. And if democracy, order, and peace serve the Twi'leks by letting them stand free, Anakin pressed, then Optimus's terms cost us nothing. We agree, we get Autobot support for Ryloth, and we save millions of lives. Where's the problem? The council fell silent, considering the implications. Finally, Yoda spoke. Agree to his terms, we shall. But Master Skywalker, understand this you must, precedent, we set. If Optimus Prime dictates terms for one operation, other systems will expect the same consideration. Change how we wage war, this might. Maybe that's not a bad thing, Anakin said quietly. The liberation of Ryloth began 3 days later with the largest combined Republic Autobot operation yet attempted. The fleet that emerged from hyperspace above the Twi'lek homeworld was impressive, 6 Venator-class star destroyers, 3 dozen support frigates, and hundreds of fighter craft. And at the heart of the formation, transmitted from a temporary base on a nearby moon, Optimus Prime coordinated with Jedi Generals Mace Windu, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Anakin Skywalker. The Separatist blockade consists of 7 frigates and 3 dreadnoughts, Obi-Wan reported, studying the tactical display. What Tambor's flagship is positioned above the capital city, he's using the civilian population as a shield. Coward's tactics, Ironhide growled, his weapons systems online and ready. Let me take a team, punch through that blockade, and drag him out of orbit. Your enthusiasm is noted, Mace Windu replied dryly, but we need surgical precision here. If we damage Tambor's ship while it's in orbit, debris could rain down on the city below. Optimus studied the holographic display, his tactical processors running through scenarios. Then we divide their attention. Master Windu, can your fleet engage the blockade ships and draw them away from the planet? We can, Windu confirmed. But that leaves Tambor's flagship free to bombard any ground forces we send. Not if the Autobots insert via atmospheric drop, Optimus replied. We don't need transport ships. We can survive terminal velocity insertion if we time our transformation properly. Anakin's eyes widened. You're going to drop from orbit? That's insane. The heat, the impact forces, are survivable for Cybertronian frames, Ratchet interjected, though his medical sensors were already calculating injury probabilities. Optimus is right. If we insert fast enough, Tambor won't have time to target us before we're already on the ground. Once we're planetside, Optimus continued, we'll move through the capital city, evacuate civilians from the immediate combat zone, and disable Tambor's ground defenses. When his flagship loses support, your fleet can move in and neutralize it without risking civilian casualties. A sound strategy, Mace Windu acknowledged. But there's another factor. Our intelligence suggests Decepticon forces are present on Ryloth. Megatron won't let us take this world unopposed. Then this will be a proper battle, Optimus replied grimly. Autobots, prepare for combat insertion. If Megatron wants Ryloth, he'll have to go through us to claim it. The orbital drop was as spectacular as it was terrifying. 5 Cybertronian warriors, Optimus Prime, Ironhide, Jazz, Bumblebee, and Ratchet, launched themselves from their moon base toward Ryloth, transforming into vehicle modes to minimize atmospheric friction. They entered Ryloth's atmosphere like meteors, their armor heating to temperatures that would have vaporized organic beings, their trajectory calculations precise enough to place them within the capital city's outskirts. From the ground, Twi'lek civilians watched in awe and terror as burning stars fell from the sky, each one impacting with enough force to crater streets and shatter windows. Then, to their amazement, the meteors stood up, transforming into towering mechanical beings who immediately began organizing evacuation routes. Citizens of Ryloth, Optimus Prime's voice boomed across the city, translated into Twi'leki by systems Jazz had configured during the descent. We are the Autobots. We have come to liberate your world. Please proceed to the marked evacuation zones. We will protect you. The Twi'leks had lived under Separatist occupation long enough to be suspicious of any military force claiming to be liberators. But there was something in Optimus's tone, a sincerity that transcended translation, that made them believe. Slowly, cautiously, they began to move. Wat Tambor, monitoring the situation from his flagship, was less impressed. Unknown hostiles have inserted into the capital. All battle droid units, eliminate them immediately. Do not allow them to interfere with our resource extraction operations. Thousands of battle droids marched toward the Autobots' position, their blasters raised, their programming simple: destroy the targets. They had no idea what they were facing. Ironhide met the first wave with the enthusiasm of a warrior who'd been holding back for too long. His cannons spoke with authority, each shot perfectly placed to disable multiple droids with a single explosive round. Battle droids that had terrorized Twi'lek civilians for months were torn apart like toys in the hands of a being who'd fought in conflicts that spanned solar systems. Come on! Ironhide roared, his voice carrying joy despite the violence. Is that all you've got? I've fought Insecticons tougher than you. Jazz provided precision support, his photon rifle picking off droid commanders and tactical units with sniper accuracy. Bumblebee's speed turned him into a blur, his plasma stingers disabling droid squads before they could achieve firing solutions. And Ratchet, despite his medical protocols, wielded his blaster with practiced competence, covering civilian evacuation routes with fields of fire that no droid could penetrate. But it was Optimus Prime who dominated the battlefield. His presence alone was enough to rally the Twi'lek resistance fighters who'd been conducting guerrilla operations for months. When he transformed his right arm into an energon axe and cleaved through a Separatist tank in a single strike, the watching Twi'leks understood that their oppressors had finally met their match. Autobots, Optimus commanded as he surveyed the battlefield, establish defensive perimeter around evacuation zones. Protect the civilians first. Military targets are secondary. It was a priority that clone troopers, trained for tactical efficiency, might have questioned. But the Autobots executed without hesitation. Protecting the innocent was their core programming, their fundamental purpose. Everything else was negotiable. In orbit, Mace Windu's fleet engaged the Separatist blockade with coordinated precision. Venator-class Star Destroyers traded fire with Munificent-class frigates, turbolaser batteries creating light shows that illuminated Rylotha's night side. Clone pilots in ARC-170 fighters dueled with Vulture droids, both sides taking casualties but the Republic's superior training slowly gaining advantage. And then, with a sudden flash of pseudo-motion that announced arrival from hyperspace, the Nemesis emerged at the edge of the engagement zone. All Republic vessels, this is Admiral Yularen, the fleet commander's voice crackled across comm channels. Unknown vessel identified as Decepticon flagship Nemesis. All fighters, be advised, we have hostile transformer contacts. Megatron's voice boomed across open frequencies, ensuring everyone could hear him. Republic fools. Did you think I would allow you to take Ryloth unopposed? This world's resources belong to the Confederacy, and by extension, to me. The Nemesis's weapons systems opened fire, not at the Republic fleet but at the planet below. Fusion bombs designed by Cybertronian engineers fell toward the capital city where Optimus Prime and his team were protecting civilians. Optimus detected the incoming ordnance immediately. All Autobots, converge on my position. We need to create an energy shield or those bombs will kill thousands. Optimus, we don't have the power generation for a shield that size. Ratchet protested even as he moved to comply. Then we'll use our own frames as barriers, Optimus replied grimly. We're more durable than any building. Position yourselves over the evacuation zones. Now. The 5 Autobots spread across the city, each one standing over clusters of fleeing Twi'lek civilians. The fusion bombs fell, and the Autobots absorbed the impact with their own bodies, their armor taking catastrophic damage to protect the beings beneath them. The explosions were devastating. Optimus Prime felt his back plating crack, warning klaxons screaming across his HUD. Ironhide's left arm was completely disabled, hanging useless at his side. Jazz's optical sensors were damaged, forcing him to rely on secondary systems. Bumblebee took a direct hit to his power core housing, his energon reserves dropping to critical levels in seconds. But the civilians beneath them survived. Every single one. From orbit, Anakin Skywalker watched the sensor readouts with growing horror. They're using themselves as shields. Optimus, pull back, you can't. We can. Optimus's voice came through the comm, strained but determined, and we will. This is what Autobots do, General Skywalker. We protect those who cannot protect themselves, no matter the cost. Megatron, watching from the Nemesis, felt something he rarely experienced, grudging respect for his ancient enemy. Prime was a fool, sacrificing himself for beings he barely knew. But he was a consistent fool, which made him predictable. And predictable enemies could be exploited. Decepticons, Megatron commanded, deploy to the surface. If Prime wants to play hero, we'll give him an audience he'll regret. Starscream, Soundwave, and a full complement of Decepticon warriors launched from the Nemesis, descending toward Ryloth like mechanical harbingers of destruction. The Battle of Ryloth was about to escalate beyond anyone's expectations. On the surface, Optimus Prime forced his damaged frame upright, his weapon systems barely functional but his resolve unshaken. Around him, his Autobots did the same, each one damaged but operational, each one ready to face Megatron's forces one more time. Autobots, Optimus said quietly, his voice carrying across their private comm frequency, this is what we fought for on Cybertron. This is why we refused to surrender, even when our world died around us. Not for territory. Not for resources. For the belief that every sentient being has the right to live free from oppression. I know, boss, Jazz replied, his damaged optics flickering. Just wish we weren't so outnumbered this time. We've been outnumbered before, Ironhide growled. Never stopped us yet. Bumblebee's vocal processors clicked and word, agreement, determination, and perhaps a little fear. He was young by Cybertronian standards, and every battle reminded him of how easily their immortality could be stripped away. Help is coming, Ratchet reported, monitoring Republic comm channels. Republic transports with clone reinforcements are beginning atmospheric entry. We just need to hold for. The Decepticons landed with earth-shaking force, their weapon systems already tracking targets. Megatron stood at their center, his fusion cannon charged and ready, his red optics locked on Optimus Prime with hatred refined over millions of years. Hello, Prime, Megatron said, his voice carrying dark satisfaction. Shall we finish what we started on Christophsis? This time, there's no strategic withdrawal to save you. Optimus Prime, damaged but unbowed, raised his ion blaster. Behind him, Twi'lek civilians continued their evacuation, trusting these strange metal beings to protect them. The battle for Ryloth had become a crucible of fire and determination. Across the capital city's shattered streets, Autobots and Decepticons engaged in brutal close-quarters combat while Republic forces struggled to establish defensive positions that wouldn't immediately be overrun. Clone troopers who'd been trained to fight battle droids found themselves witnessing combat on a scale that defied their understanding, beings the size of gunships trading blows that shattered buildings and tore through reinforced structures like paper. Optimus Prime and Megatron had become the eye of the storm, their combat creating a zone of devastation that nothing else dared enter. Optimus's energon reserves hovered at 37%, warning indicators flashing across his HUD with increasing urgency. Megatron's own reserves weren't much better, the Decepticon leader had expended enormous amounts of energy in the orbital bombardment and subsequent assault. Both warriors knew this battle would be decided by who could endure longest. You're weakening, Prime. Megatron snarled, his fusion cannon firing at point-blank range. The blast caught Optimus in the shoulder, sending him stumbling backward through the ruins of what had been a Twi'lek residential structure. Your precious principles have made you soft. While you waste energy protecting insects, I conserve my strength for what matters, victory. Optimus rolled with the impact, his transformation cog triggering mid-fall. He converted to vehicle mode, accelerated through the rubble, and transformed back while airborne, his momentum carrying him into a devastating kick that connected with Megatron's chest plating. The Decepticon leader absorbed the impact but felt something crack deep in his thoracic structure. "Principles aren't weakness, Megatron," Optimus replied, his voice carrying the weariness of eons. "They're what separate us from mindless destruction. You've forgotten that. Or perhaps you never understood it at all. Philosophy." Megatron spat the word like a curse. "Always philosophy with you. While you debate ethics, I conquer. While you protect the weak, I build empires. That is the difference between us, Prime. I act, you hesitate." Their weapons locked again, servos straining, energon pumps working overtime to supply power to limbs pushed far beyond safe operational parameters. Around them, the secondary battles raged with equal intensity. Ironhide had engaged Soundwave in a duel that was as much about patience as firepower. The Decepticon communications officer fought with calculated precision, his sonic weapons creating interference patterns that disrupted Ironhide's targeting systems. But Ironhide had centuries of combat experience to draw upon. He didn't need perfect targeting when overwhelming firepower could saturate an area. "Stand still, you glitch!" Ironhide roared, his cannons firing in widespread patterns that forced Soundwave to constantly reposition. Each miss tore through Separatist battle droid formations that had been attempting to flank Republic positions, accidentally providing covering fire for clone troopers who were smart enough to recognize an opportunity. "Negative," Soundwave responded in his characteristic monotone. "Tactical advantage, mobility. Continuing evasive protocols." His minions, Laserbeak, Ravage, and Rumble, harassed Ironhide from multiple angles, their smaller size and speed making them difficult targets. But Ironhide had fought swarms of insect icons on Cybertron, a few minions weren't going to slow him down significantly. Jazz and Starscream had taken their battle skyward, transforming and engaging in aerial combat that pushed both warriors to their limits. Starscream's superior speed gave him an edge, but Jazz's unpredictability made him nearly impossible to achieve a clean firing solution on. "You can't keep this up forever, Autobot." Starscream taunted, his null rays firing in calculated bursts. "I am the fastest seeker ever forged. You're outmatched." "Maybe," Jazz replied, his voice carrying casual confidence despite the desperate circumstances, "but I'm cooler than you'll ever be, Screamer." He executed a barrel roll that brought him underneath Starscream's flight path, his photon rifle scoring a direct hit on the Seeker's ventral plating. Starscream shrieked in pain and fury, his pride wounded as much as his armor. "You insignificant, I'll tear you apart." "Promises, promises," Jazz quipped, already diving toward the city streets where the tighter confines would neutralize Starscream's speed advantage. Bumblebee, running on emergency energon reserves, had become the unlikely anchor of the Autobot defensive line. His smaller size allowed him to move through the urban terrain with agility the larger Transformers couldn't match, and he positioned himself at a critical intersection where Separatist reinforcements were attempting to push through. His plasma stingers fired with precision despite his damaged power core, each shot carefully rationed to maximize efficiency. Clone Commander Cody had recognized Bumblebee's tactical position and brought his forces to support the young Autobot. "All units, concentrate fire on coordinates 779. We hold this intersection, we control the eastern approach." Bumblebee's vocal processors clicked appreciation, and Cody found himself developing a strange rapport with the Cybertronian warrior. They couldn't speak each other's languages fully, but combat had its own universal communication. When Bumblebee gestured toward a building that Separatist snipers were using, Cody understood immediately and directed rocket launcher fire to collapse it. Ratchet had abandoned any pretense of being a non-combatant medic. His blaster spoke constantly, providing covering fire for Twi'lek civilians still evacuating from the battle zone. But his sensors never stopped monitoring his fellow Autobots' condition, and what he saw terrified him. "Optimus, you need to disengage. Ratchet's voice carried urgent medical authority through their private comm channel. Your energon reserves are approaching critical levels. If you drop below 20% during active combat, you could go into cascade failure. Noted, Optimus replied tersely, blocking another fusion cannon blast with his ion shield. But if I disengage, Megatron destroys this city and everyone in it. Unacceptable. You dying is also unacceptable. Ratchet shot back. Then I suggest, Optimus said, using Megatron's own momentum to throw him through a building's facade, that you focus on keeping everyone else operational. I'll manage. In orbit, the space battle had reached a stalemate. The Republic fleet had successfully neutralized most of the Separatist blockade, but the Nemesis remained a threat that Admiral Yulren's forces couldn't effectively engage. The Decepticon flagship's armor was simply too advanced, its weapons too powerful. Turbolaser fire that could crack open Separatist dreadnoughts barely scorched the Nemesis's hull. Mace Windu, commanding the operation from his flagship, made a tactical decision that would have consequences far beyond the current battle. Admiral, prepare boarding parties. If we can't destroy that ship, we'll capture it. Master Windu, with respect, we don't have troops trained for boarding Cybertronian vessels, Yulren protested. We don't know the internal layout, the atmosphere might be toxic to organics, and... Then we'll be the first, Windu interrupted, his lightsaber already in hand. Prepare gunships for assault. I'll lead the boarding action personally. Anakin Skywalker's hologram materialized beside them. Master Windu, if you're boarding the Nemesis, I'm coming with you. I've worked with the Autobots, I've seen their ship designs. I might be able to help. Very well, Windu acknowledged. But Skywalker, this isn't a training exercise. If we encounter Decepticons aboard that ship. I know, Anakin said grimly. We fight, or we die. I understand. What neither Jedi knew was that someone else had been monitoring their communications with keen interest. Deep within the Nemesis's command systems, a subroutine that shouldn't have existed activated, sending a burst transmission to a location far from Ryloth. On Coruscant, in the depths of the Senate building's hidden chambers, Darth Sidious received the transmission and smiled beneath his hood. The Jedi were about to board a Decepticon vessel. They would learn things about Cybertronian technology. And once they learned, they would share that knowledge with the Republic's scientific corps. All according to plan. Yes, Sidious whispered to the darkness. Let them think they're gaining an advantage. Let them bring their prizes home. And when the time comes, those prizes will be the key to their destruction. Back on Ryloth's surface, Optimus Prime's energon reserves hit 23%. Warning klaxons screamed across his systems, medical protocols demanding immediate shutdown to prevent permanent damage. His movements were slowing, his reaction times dropping from microseconds to dangerous fractions of seconds. Megatron noticed. Finally. The Decepticon leader's voice carried dark satisfaction. Finally, you're failing. All your noble sacrifice, all your heroic posturing, and in the end, you're just another Cybertronian running out of energon. Watch now, Prime, as I destroy everything you tried to protect. Megatron's fusion cannon charged for a final, devastating shot aimed not at Optimus but at the largest concentration of Twi'lek civilians still evacuating through the streets behind him. The shot would kill thousands, maybe tens of thousands. And Optimus, damaged and energon depleted, couldn't move fast enough to intercept it. Time seemed to slow. Optimus's tactical computers calculated trajectories, energy requirements, probability of success. Every scenario ended in civilian casualties unless he did something his tactical programming classified as catastrophic failure highly probable. He diverted every remaining watt of power, including life support, damage control, and core maintenance protocols, into his legs, accelerating to speeds his damaged frame shouldn't have been able to achieve. He threw himself into the fusion cannon's firing path, his own body becoming the shield between Megatron's hatred and innocent lives. The fusion cannon fired. The blast hit Optimus Prime square in the chest, burning through outer armor, damaging primary energon conduits, sending cascading failures through multiple systems simultaneously. He fell, his massive frame hitting the ground hard enough to crater the street, his optics flickering as emergency protocols struggled to keep his spark functioning. No! Multiple voices screamed simultaneously, Ratchet, Ironhide, Jazz, Bumblebee, even several clone troopers who'd fought alongside the Autobot leader. They all recognized what they were seeing, Optimus Prime dying to protect beings he'd known for mere weeks. Megatron stood over his fallen enemy, fusion cannon still smoking, victory within his grasp. Finally, he said quietly, almost reverently. Finally, after all these millennia, you fall. Not in some grand battle for Cybertron, but in a meaningless gesture for aliens who will forget you within a generation. How pathetic. How perfectly you. He raised his fusion cannon for the killing shot, the one that would extinguish Optimus Prime's spark forever and end their war once and for all. His targeting systems locked on. His finger moved toward the trigger. And then the ground beneath both transformers exploded upward. The Twi'lek resistance fighters had been mining the city's underground tunnels for months, preparing for a final desperate strike against Watumbor's occupation force. When they saw Optimus Prime sacrifice himself to save their people, they made a decision: if this strange metal being was willing to die for them, they would fight for him. Hundreds of pounds of improvised explosives, positioned in the tunnels directly beneath the battlefield, detonated simultaneously. The blast wasn't enough to seriously damage either Cybertronian warrior, but it was enough to throw off Megatron's aim, to buy precious seconds, to change everything. Megatron stumbled, his shot going wild, his targeting disrupted. And in those seconds, Republic gunships descended, their cannons firing not at the Transformers but at the Separatist forces that had been attempting to flank the Autobot positions. Clone troopers poured from the gunships, establishing a defensive perimeter around Optimus Prime's fallen form. Commander Cody's voice carried across the battlefield with parade ground authority. All Republic forces, this position is now priority Alpha. We hold this ground. We protect Prime. The clones formed up with discipline that would have made any Mandalorian proud, their training overcoming their fear, their loyalty to the Jedi extending to the beings the Jedi had called allies. They were massively outgunned, facing Decepticons and battle droids that could kill them in seconds. They formed the line anyway. Megatron stared at the scene, clone troopers defending an Autobot, Twi'lek resistance fighters emerging from tunnels with crude weapons, civilians returning to throw rocks and debris at Decepticon forces, and something shifted in his calculations. This wasn't just combat anymore. This had become something ideological, something that transcended tactical considerations. Prime had inspired them. With a single act of self-sacrifice, he turned random organic beings into believers willing to die for him. That kind of loyalty couldn't be purchased with resources or intimidated with firepower. It had to be earned through consistent demonstration of principle. It was exactly the kind of thing that made Optimus Prime so dangerous. Decepticons, Megatron commanded, his voice cold with controlled fury, withdraw. We've achieved our tactical objectives. Let them have their symbolic victory. But Megatron. Starscream protested. Prime is down. We can finish this. We retreat, Megatron stated flatly, in a tone that brooked no argument. Through 1,000 clone soldiers willing to die for him. While Republic gunships provide air support. And for what? One more dead Autobot when I can destroy him later under more favorable circumstances. No. We withdraw. Now. The Decepticons disengaged with military efficiency, transforming and accelerating away from the battlefield even as Republic forces tried to prevent their escape. Within minutes, the Nemesis had retrieved its warriors and was accelerating toward the system's edge, pursued by Republic fighters but too fast and too durable to be stopped. The Battle of Ryloth was over. The Republic had won. Ratchet reached Optimus first, his medical scanners painting a grim picture. Spark signature stable but weak. Energon reserves at 4%. Major structural damage to thoracic assembly. Optimus, can you hear me? Optimus's optics flickered online, dim but functional. Did the civilians? They survived, Ratchet assured him, his voice thick with emotion that medical protocols couldn't quite suppress. Every single one, you stubborn fool. You saved them all. Good, Optimus whispered. Then, worth it. His optics dimmed again as his systems forced him into emergency stasis to prevent spark failure. Around his unconscious form, Twi'leks began to gather, their faces showing wonder and gratitude. The children pointed at him, already telling stories about the metal giant who fell from the sky to save them. Mace Windu's gunship landed nearby, the Jedi Master emerging with his usual stern composure, though his eyes showed concern. Commander Cody, status report. Separatist forces have withdrawn, sir. Watumbor's flagship is retreating out system. The blockade is broken. And, Cody gestured toward Optimus Prime's fallen form. Optimus Prime survived, but just barely. Ratchet says he needs immediate energon infusion and extensive repairs. He'll get them, Windu stated firmly. This being just taught us more about courage and sacrifice than 1,000 Jedi meditations. We owe him our best efforts. He paused, studying the gathered Twi'leks, the clone troopers standing protective watch, the Autobots maintaining defensive positions despite their own damage. And perhaps we owe him more than that. Perhaps we owe him the kind of galaxy he thinks he's fighting for. 3 weeks after the Battle of Ryloth, the Republic Senate convened in emergency session. The massive chamber buzzed with thousands of voices, senators from every corner of the galaxy debating, arguing, politicking over a question that had become impossible to ignore. What exactly were the Autobots, and what role should they play in the Clone Wars? Chancellor Palpatine sat in his elevated position at the chamber's center, his aged face showing concern that masked calculations running far deeper than anyone suspected. He had allowed this debate to occur, had even encouraged it through carefully placed suggestions to key senators. The Transformers had become too visible, too influential to remain unofficial. It was time to bring them under Republic authority, or expose them as threats that needed to be contained. Senator Bail Organa of Alderaan stood at his delegation's platform, his voice carrying across the chamber with practiced oratory. Fellow senators, we've witnessed the courage of these Autobots firsthand. They saved Ryloth. They've defended our supply convoys. They ask for nothing but the resources to survive while they search for a way home. How can we possibly debate whether to support them? Because they're not part of our republic. Senator Orn Free Taa of Ryloth countered, his multiple chins quivering with indignation despite the fact that Autobots had literally saved his homeworld. They're unaccountable to our laws, our oversight, our democratic processes. They're essentially a private military force with capabilities that exceed our own. What happens when they decide our politics don't suit them? What happens is they leave, Organa shot back. They've stated repeatedly they want only to return home. We're the ones insisting they stay and fight our war. Senator Medici of Umbara's hologram flickered as he joined the debate. And what of the Decepticons? These Autobots brought their war to our galaxy. Every battle we've fought against Megatron's forces has cost Republic lives and resources. Perhaps the wisest course is to expel both factions and let them wage their eternal war elsewhere. The chamber erupted in arguments, delegations shouting across the vast space, the democratic process devolving into chaos that Palpatine allowed to continue for exactly the right length of time before raising his hand for silence. Senators, the Chancellor's voice carried quiet authority that somehow cut through the noise. We have with us today a representative from the Autobots. Perhaps before we decide their fate, we should hear from them directly. Master Optimus Prime, if you would address the Senate. The chamber's massive doors opened, and Optimus Prime entered. His repairs from Ryloth were still incomplete, visible seams in his chest armor where Ratchet had sealed catastrophic damage, slight irregularity in his gait from structural compromises that hadn't fully healed. But he moved with dignity, his optics scanning the thousands of senators who would decide whether the Autobots were allies or liabilities. The Jedi Council sat in their special observation box, Yoda, Mace Windu, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and others watching with expressions ranging from support to concern. In another box, partially concealed by shadows, Mas Amedda observed with reptilian intensity, representing interests that went beyond simple Senate politics. Optimus Prime stood at the center of the chamber where accused criminals and honored dignitaries alike had made their cases before the assembled Republic. His voice, when he spoke, needed no amplification. Cybertronian vocal systems could fill auditoriums designed for thousands. Senators of the Galactic Republic, Optimus began, his tone respectful but unbowed. I am Optimus Prime, leader of the Autobots. We did not choose to come to your galaxy. We did not ask to involve ourselves in your war. A dimensional accident brought us here, stranded us far from home, far from the war we've been fighting for millions of your years. The chamber was silent now, thousands of beings listening to a voice that carried the weight of eons. Some of you have asked what we are. We are autonomous robotic organisms, beings of metal and energy, born from Cybertron, a world that died because we failed to prevent our war from consuming it. We are not droids. We are not machines in the sense you understand them. We think. We feel. We choose. We are alive. Senator Taa attempted to interrupt, but Palpatine gestured for silence, his expression showing polite interest that masked keen focus. Others have asked why we fight, Optimus continued. The answer is simple, we fight because we must. The Decepticons, led by Megatron, seek conquest. They allied with your Separatists not out of shared ideology but opportunism. If they gain a foothold in this galaxy, they will not stop at helping the Confederacy win. They will turn on their allies and seek domination of all they survey. This is not speculation. This is the lesson of 4 million years of warfare. And what do the Autobots seek? Bail Organa asked, his voice carrying genuine curiosity rather than challenge. If the Decepticons seek conquest, what drives you? Optimus turned to face Organa's platform directly. Freedom. The right of all sentient beings to live without oppression, to make their own choices, to exist without fear of those who would subjugate them. It is a simple principle, but one worth fighting for. Worth dying for, if necessary. Noble words, Senator Dichi observed dryly. But words are easy. Actions reveal truth. You've intervened in Republic military operations. You've made demands about civilian protection. You've essentially forced the Republic to fight this war according to your principles rather than our strategic necessities. Yes, Optimus agreed without hesitation. I have. Because I will not compromise on protecting innocent lives, regardless of strategic convenience. If that makes me difficult to work with, I accept that consequence. But I will not apologize for it. The honesty was shocking. Senators accustomed to political doublespeak, to carefully worded non-answers, found themselves facing a being who simply stated his principles and accepted whatever judgment came from them. Palpatine leaned forward slightly, his expression thoughtful. Master Prime, you speak of freedom and protection of innocence. These are values the Republic holds dear. Yet you refuse to fully integrate with our military command structure. You operate independently, sometimes counter to strategic directives. How can we trust beings who will not submit to proper authority? It was a trap, carefully constructed. Answer yes, and the Autobots became subordinate to Republic, and by extension, Palpatine's, control. Answer no, and they appeared to be rogue elements that threatened democratic order. Optimus Prime met Palpatine's eyes directly, and for just a moment, the ancient Autobot sensors detected something in the Chancellor that his processors flagged as anomalous. Not quite visible, not quite measurable, but present, a distortion in local energy fields, a signature that reminded him uncomfortably of Dark Energon, the corrupted Energon that had poisoned parts of Cybertron's core. Chancellor, Optimus replied carefully, authority must be earned through consistent demonstration of wisdom and principle. The Republic has earned my respect in many ways. Your Jedi embody dedication to protecting others, your clone soldiers show remarkable courage, and many of your leaders genuinely seek peace and justice. But? Palpatine prompted, his expression showing patient interest. But I have also seen troubling things. Clone soldiers created without choice in their existence, programmed for loyalty rather than choosing it freely. Military strategies that prioritize territory over lives. Political maneuvering that values advantage over principle. The Republic is flawed, as all governments are. I will work with you, fight alongside you, but I will not surrender the Autobots' independence to any government until I am certain that government truly serves the beings it claims to protect. The chamber erupted. Some senators applauded Optimus's honesty. Others shouted outrage at his presumption. Still others simply looked uncomfortable, as if he'd articulated doubts they'd been suppressing about their own democratic institutions. Palpatine allowed the chaos to continue for several moments before restoring order. His expression had shifted to one of disappointed understanding, like a patient teacher dealing with a gifted but stubborn student. I see, Palpatine said quietly, his voice carrying regret that was perfectly performed. So the Autobots will help us, but only on their terms. They will fight our enemies, but question our methods. They will accept our resources, but reject our authority. He paused, letting the characterization sink in. This is not alliance, Master Prime. This is conditional support that could be withdrawn at any moment. How can the Republic build strategy around such uncertainty? Before Optimus could respond, Master Yoda's voice cut through the tension. Permission to speak, does this old Jedi have? Palpatine couldn't refuse without appearing petty. Of course, Master Yoda. Your wisdom is always welcome. The ancient Jedi Master rose from his seat, his walking stick tapping as he made his way to a position where the entire chamber could see him. Troubling words, Prime has spoken. Honest words. True words. Question our methods, he does. Perhaps question them, we should as well. Mace Windu's expression suggested he knew exactly where Yoda was going and didn't entirely approve, but the senior Jedi Master continued. Created without choice, our clone soldiers were, Yoda stated, his words dropping like stones into still water. Programmed for loyalty, they are. Question this, have we? Uncomfortable truth, Prime speaks. Uncomfortable, because true it is. The chamber had gone deathly silent. For a Jedi Master to publicly question the Republic's military foundation was unprecedented, possibly politically catastrophic. But this debate, for another day it is, Yoda continued. Today's question, ally or threat, are the Autobots. Simple, the answer is. Saved Ryloth, they did. Protected convoys, they have. Asked for little, given much. Earned our trust through action, they have. Trust them, we should. Learn from them, we might. Palpatine's expression remained neutral, but those who knew him well might have detected a flicker of annoyance. Yoda had just defused the political trap with typical Jedi directness, reframing the debate from one about authority to one about demonstrated virtue. A compelling argument, Master Yoda, Palpatine acknowledged. Perhaps we should vote. All those in favor of formally recognizing the Autobots as allies of the Republic, with independent operational authority but access to Republic resources and support. The vote was closer than Optimus had expected. Many senators, particularly those from systems that had benefited from Autobot intervention, voted in favor. But nearly as many voted against or abstained, uncomfortable with beings they couldn't fully control or understand. In the end, the measure passed by a narrow margin. The Autobots were officially recognized as allies of the Republic, granted access to resources and support, but maintaining their operational independence. It was a compromise that satisfied no one completely, which meant it was probably the best outcome possible. As Optimus Prime left the Senate chamber, Bail Organa caught up with him in the massive corridor beyond. Master Prime, a word, if I may. Optimus stopped, his sensors indicating they were being observed by multiple security systems but no immediate organic presence. Senator Organa. Thank you for your support in there. I didn't support you out of politics, Organa replied quietly. I supported you because you're right. The Republic has lost its way in this war. We've compromised so many principles in pursuit of victory that I sometimes wonder what we're even fighting for anymore. He paused, choosing his next words carefully. Be careful, Master Prime. The Chancellor is not what he appears. I can't prove anything, but my instincts tell me there's something deeply wrong at the heart of the Republic. I sensed something as well, Optimus admitted. A distortion around him. Something my sensors classify as dangerous but can't quite identify. Then trust your sensors, Organa urged. And if things go badly, if the Republic falls to whatever darkness is growing, know that there are those of us who will remember what we're supposed to stand for. We'll need allies like you. Before Optimus could respond, Obi-Wan Kenobi approached, his expression troubled. Master Prime, we need to speak privately. It's about your encounter with the Chancellor. Master Yoda has concerns. The three beings moved to a more secure location, an observation deck overlooking Coruscant's endless cityscape. Once privacy screens were activated, Obi-Wan continued. Master Yoda felt something during your exchange with the Chancellor. A disturbance in the Force, focused on you specifically. He believes Palpatine was attempting to probe you somehow. To understand your capabilities or weaknesses. I am not connected to your Force, Optimus noted. How could he probe what he cannot sense? That's what concerns us, Obi-Wan replied. The fact that he tried suggests he has methods we don't understand. Or that he's more powerful than we've realized. He hesitated, then added, Master Prime, the Jedi Council has suspected for years that a Sith Lord is manipulating the Clone Wars. We don't know who or where, but the pattern is clear, both sides are being played against each other. If the Chancellor. If your leader is the enemy, Optimus finished grimly, then this war has already been lost. You're fighting an enemy who controls both sides of the conflict. We have no proof, Obi-Wan said quickly. Only suspicions and troubling patterns. But yes, that's our fear. Optimus Prime's processors ran through implications at quantum speeds. If the Republic's leader was indeed the hidden enemy, then every battle, every strategy, every victory might be serving a larger plan toward ultimate defeat. It was the kind of long-term strategic manipulation that Megatron had attempted on Cybertron, turning both sides of a conflict into tools for a third party's agenda. Then we need proof, Optimus stated. Or we need to prepare for the moment when the mask falls and the true enemy reveals himself. Senator Organa is right about one thing, we need to know who our true allies are before the final battle begins. Far below the Senate building, in chambers that officially didn't exist, Darth Sidious stood before a holographic projection showing the Senate debate. His apprentice, Count Dooku, appeared beside him in flickering blue. The Autobots have been recognized, Dooku reported. They maintain independence but have Republic support. Your efforts to bring them under direct control failed, my master. Did they? Sidious's smile was cold as space. Or did we learn exactly what we needed, that Optimus Prime cannot be controlled through political means, that the Jedi are beginning to question Republic methods, and that the Autobots represent a wild card that must be either turned or eliminated before the final phase? And Megatron? Dooku asked. Megatron remains useful. His attacks force the Republic to rely more heavily on the Jedi and the clones. His presence justifies emergency powers. And when the time comes, Sidious's yellow eyes gleamed, both Transformer factions will serve their purpose in the new order, whether they know it or not. Everything proceeds as you have foreseen, Dooku stated, the ritual phrase of Sith apprentice to master. Yes, Sidious agreed. Though these Transformers have added complications. The Autobots exist outside the Force, which makes them unpredictable. And Prime's principles might inspire dangerous thoughts in the Jedi. We may need to accelerate the timeline. How soon, Master? Soon, Sidious replied, his voice carrying dark satisfaction. The pieces are almost in position. When every player is exactly where they need to be, we'll activate Order 66 and watch the Jedi Order burn. And if the Autobots try to interfere, his smile widened, well, there are contingencies for that as well. On a Republic medical cruiser in orbit above Coruscant, Optimus Prime stood in a reinforced repair bay while Ratchet continued the painstaking work of fixing the damage from Ryloth. The other Autobots were present, Ironhide maintaining his weapons, Jazz monitoring galactic communication channels, Bumblebee resting in low-power mode to conserve energon. Optimus, Ratchet said carefully as he welded a thoracic support strut back into place, we need to talk about our energon situation. The Republic is helping us synthesize it, but production rates can't keep up with combat consumption. If we fight many more battles like Ryloth, we'll start losing Autobots to energon starvation. I know, Optimus replied quietly. I'm aware of the mathematics, Ratchet. We're in an unsustainable position. Then maybe it's time to consider retreat, Ironhide suggested, his tone uncharacteristically subdued. Find a remote system, go into stasis until we can figure out how to get home or achieve energon self-sufficiency. We can't help anyone if we're all dead. We can't abandon them, Bumblebee's vocal processors clicked urgently. His limited speech capability couldn't fully express his distress at the suggestion, but the emotion was clear. Bumblebee's right, Jazz added. We've seen what the Decepticons are doing to this galaxy. If we pull out now, Megatron wins. Everything we've fought for, everyone we've saved, it all gets crushed under Decepticon tyranny. So we die slowly trying to save a galaxy that isn't even ours. Ironhide challenged. Is that the Autobot way now? It's always been the Autobot way, Optimus replied firmly. We fight because beings need protection. That's the principle that founded our faction, that separated us from the Decepticons. Location doesn't change that fundamental truth. Even if it kills us. Ironhide pressed. Especially if it kills us, Optimus stated. Because if we abandon our principles to survive, then we've already lost the only war that truly matters, the one for what kind of beings we choose to be. The repair bay fell silent except for the hum of Ratchet's tools. Finally, the medic spoke, his voice carrying resignation and pride mixed together. You're going to get us all killed with that philosophy, Optimus. Probably, Optimus agreed. But we'll die as Autobots. And that's worth something. Outside the medical cruiser, the galaxy turned through its cycles of light and dark, war and brief peace, hope and despair. The Clone Wars ground on, consuming resources and lives with mechanical efficiency. The Separatists pressed their advantage in the Outer Rim. The Republic struggled to maintain control of critical systems. And in the shadows, the true enemy waited, patient as time itself, watching pieces move across a board whose full dimensions none of the players could see. The Battle of Coruscant was coming. The moment when all masks would fall. The crucible where the Clone Wars would end and something far darker would begin. But neither the Jedi, nor the Republic, nor the Autobots knew exactly how close that moment was. Or how much would be lost when it arrived. The final battle began not with a declaration of war, but with an abduction. General Grievous' assault on Coruscant came with overwhelming force, hundreds of Separatist capital ships dropping out of hyperspace directly above the Republic capital, their sudden appearance a tactical impossibility that suggested intelligence far beyond what the Confederacy should have possessed. Vulture droids swarmed through the upper atmosphere while Republic defense fleets scrambled to respond, and at the heart of the invasion fleet, Grievous' flagship drove straight toward the Senate District with singular purpose. The objective: capture Chancellor Palpatine. Aboard the Republic command vessel, Admiral Yularen coordinated the defense with professional calm despite the chaos erupting across every sensor display. All batteries, focus fire on the lead Separatist cruisers. Fighter squadrons, engage their screening forces. Someone find me Generals Kenobi and Skywalker. They're already launching, Admiral, a clone officer reported. Along with, he paused, consulting his display with confusion. Sir, the Autobots are requesting permission to engage enemy capital ships directly. Directly? Yularen repeated. They're planning to board Separatist vessels? Affirmative, sir. Optimus Prime says, and I quote, "We've boarded Decepticon ships under worse circumstances. Separatist technology should pose minimal challenge." Yularen made a command decision born of desperate circumstances. Permission granted. Tell them to prioritize the flagship. If they can create confusion in Grievous' command structure, it might buy us time to evacuate the Chancellor. What the Admiral didn't know, what none of the Republic forces knew, was that evacuating Palpatine was precisely the opposite of what the Chancellor wanted. In his private office, Palpatine stood at the window watching the space battle rage above Coruscant, his aged face showing fear that masked dark anticipation. Count Dooku would be arriving soon with clone commando, rescue forces, that would be conveniently delayed. Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi would fight their way through to him, Skywalker would be forced to kill Dooku, and another piece would fall into place. Unless the Autobots interfered. They were the variable that troubled him, the pieces on the board that existed outside the Force's normal flow. He had contingencies, but contingencies were not certainties. Still, even wildcards could be useful if played correctly. Optimus Prime launched from the Republic command ship alongside Ironhide and Jazz, their Cybertronian forms accelerating through the void of space with practiced ease. Unlike organic beings, they didn't need life support or atmospheric shields, space was simply another battlefield they'd fought in countless times across Cybertron's orbit. Targeting the flagship, Optimus transmitted across their private channel. If we can disable their command systems, the entire invasion fleet becomes uncoordinated. Assuming they don't have redundant command protocols, Jazz observed, his sensors already analyzing the Separatist vessel's communication patterns. But worth a shot. You want subtle infiltration or loud distraction? Loud, Ironhide answered before Optimus could respond, his cannons already charging. I vote loud. Optimus allowed himself a slight smile, a human expression he'd learned conveyed the same meaning his own facial plates would have shown on Cybertron. Loud it is. All Autobots, weapons free. Let's show them what happens when you bring war to an occupied planet. They struck the flagship's hangar bay like meteors, their impact tearing through the energy shield through sheer momentum and mass. Battle droids immediately opened fire, their programming identifying the intruders as hostile but not quite understanding what they were facing. Ironhide's response was characteristically direct. His cannons spoke with authority, each shot precisely calculated to disable droid formations while avoiding critical ship systems that might cause catastrophic decompression. Autobots don't kill organics if we can help it, he'd explained to confused clone troopers once, but droids? They're just programming. No spark, no consciousness. Fair game. Jazz moved with the fluid grace of a warrior who'd perfected combat over millions of years, his photon rifle disabling targeting systems and communication relays with surgical precision. Optimus, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures in the command section. Not standard Separatist tech. Feels almost like dark energon. Optimus finished grimly. The corrupted energon that had poisoned Cybertron's core had a distinctive signature his sensors would never forget. And if something similar existed in this galaxy? Not exactly, Jazz replied, his processors struggling to classify what he was detecting. But close. Something wrong, something twisted. Whatever it is, it's concentrated around the bridge. Then that's where we're going, Optimus stated. Ironhide, secure this hangar. Jazz, with me. They moved through the ship's corridors with speed that shocked the battle droids attempting to stop them. Destroyer droids rolled into position and activated their shields, only to discover that Cybertronian weapons operated on energy frequencies their shields weren't designed to block. Super battle droids tried to establish choke points, but beings who could transform into vehicles simply reconfigured and powered through obstacles that would have stopped organic soldiers. Meanwhile, Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi were fighting their own path toward the Chancellor through the ship's main approach corridors. Their lightsabers wove patterns of blue light that deflected blaster bolts and cut through battle droids with Jedi precision. But even two of the Order's finest were being slowed by the sheer number of enemies. This was a trap designed to consume time, to ensure they arrived exactly when Palpatine needed them to. "There's something wrong about this entire situation," Obi-Wan observed as they fought through another droid squadron. "The Separatists can't possibly expect to hold Coruscant. This feels more like a raid than an invasion." "Does it matter?" Anakin shot back, his fighting style more aggressive, fueled by the fear of losing another person he cared about after his mother's death. "They have the Chancellor. We have to rescue him." "Yes, but why?" Obi-Wan's question was cut off as they burst onto the bridge to find Count Dooku waiting, his red lightsaber ignited, and behind him, Palpatine secured to a chair, looking appropriately terrified. "Kenobi. Skywalker." Dooku's cultured voice carried dark amusement. "How predictable. The Jedi always think they're heroes in their own stories. You never consider that you might be playing someone else's game." The duel began with the explosive force of Form 2 meeting Form V, Dooku's elegant Makashi technique clashing against Anakin's aggressive Gemso. Obi-Wan tried to flank, but Dooku was one of the finest duelists in the galaxy. He held both Jedi at bay with apparent ease, though those watching closely might have noticed he was being pressed harder than he let on. What none of them knew was that on another level of the ship, Optimus Prime and Jazz had reached the command section and discovered something that made both Autobots' tactical computers flash priority warnings. The bridge's central command station was wired into a device that was definitely not Separatist technology. It pulsed with dark energy that Optimus's sensors classified with a single word: dangerous. The signature was similar to dark energon but fundamentally different. This was organic in origin, connected to the life force of the galaxy itself but twisted, corrupted, turned into something predatory. "Jazz, can you identify this?" "Negative, but whatever it is, it's broadcasting a signal. Encrypted, multi-frequency, using protocols that shouldn't exist in this galaxy's technology base." Jazz's sensors worked overtime analyzing the data streams. "Optimus, this thing is transmitting to every clone trooper's cranial implant in the system. It's like a waiting command sequence. Dormant but ready to activate." Optimus Prime felt something he rarely experienced: genuine fear. Not for himself, but for what this implied. A kill switch. Hidden in every clone soldier, waiting to be triggered. Against who? Jazz asked, though his tactical computers were already providing the answer. "Against the Jedi," Optimus replied grimly. "This entire war, it's been preparation for mass execution of the Republic's defenders." Before they could act on this revelation, the ship shuddered as something massive impacted its hull from outside. Both Autobots recognized the energy signature immediately: Decepticons. Megatron's voice boomed through their comm systems, having hacked into their frequency with characteristic arrogance. "Prime. Did you think I wouldn't notice you playing hero in the middle of a space battle? Whatever you're doing in there, you're about to have company." The flagship's exterior hull tore open as Megatron, Starscream, and Soundwave breached directly through armor plating, their entry creating explosive decompression that would have killed any organic crew nearby. They had come not to support the Separatist attack but to hunt Autobots. The Clone Wars were simply a convenient backdrop for their eternal conflict. Optimus made a calculation in microseconds. He could fight Megatron here, abandon the device and its implications, focus on the immediate threat. Or he could trust in his team and pursue the larger danger. "Jazz, download everything from that device. Full analysis. We need to understand what's being planned." On it, Jazz confirmed, his interface cables connecting to the alien technology despite the risks of contamination or countermeasures. "And Optimus?" Jazz added as his systems began absorbing data. "Whatever happens next, it's been an honor serving with you." "The honor has been mine, old friend," Optimus replied. Then he transformed and accelerated toward the breach point where Megatron waited, drawing his ancient enemy away from Jazz and the critical intelligence they'd discovered. The two leaders collided in the ship's main corridor with force that buckled bulkheads and sent battle droids flying. They grappled, servos straining, neither willing to give ground, both aware that this battle was about more than just their personal war. "You've made yourself this galaxy's protector," Megatron snarled, his fusion cannon charging at point-blank range. "Playing savior to beings who will never understand what you've sacrificed. When will you learn, Prime? Nobility is just another word for weakness. And conquest is just another word for fear," Optimus countered, using Megatron's momentum to throw him through a bulkhead. "You've been trying to prove you're strong for so long that you've forgotten strength without purpose is meaningless." Their battle raged through the ship while around them, the larger drama unfolded. Anakin Skywalker, pushed by Palpatine's careful manipulation and his own fear of loss, struck down Count Dooku in a moment of dark side rage that would haunt him forever. Obi-Wan disabled General Grievous' escape pod systems, forcing the cyborg general to flee on foot. And in the command center, Jazz completed his download just as Starscream discovered his position. Well, Starscream's voice dripped with malice. "An Autobot all alone with something important. This must be my lucky day." Jazz transformed and ran, leading Starscream away from the device, unwilling to risk it being destroyed before its intelligence could be delivered. The Seeker pursued with null rays blazing, destroying anything between him and his prey, caring nothing for the ship's structural integrity or the organic crew that might be harmed. On the bridge, Palpatine watched Anakin's anguished face as the young Jedi realized he'd just executed an unarmed prisoner. Perfect. The seeds of doubt, of self-loathing, of distrust in Jedi teaching, all planted exactly as planned. Soon, very soon, Anakin Skywalker would become Darth Vader, and the Jedi Order would burn. Unless the Autobots' discovery changed everything. High above the battle, on the Republic command ship, Ratchet monitored his team's vital signs with growing alarm. Optimus's energon reserves are dropping fast. He can't maintain this level of combat much longer. And Jazz, something's wrong with Jazz's signature. He's running hot, like he's overclocking his processors past safe limits. Bumblebee's vocal processors clicked urgently, a question about intervention, about helping their teammates. "We can't," Ratchet replied grimly. "Our orders were to protect the Republic fleet. If we abandon position, Separatist fighters will overwhelm our defensive line." He paused, medical ethics warring with tactical necessity. "But damn it, they're our brothers. Our friends." The medic made a decision that might end his existence but felt right in his spark. "Bumblebee, Ironhide, hold this position. I'm going in." "About time," Ironhide's voice carried approval. "Go get our boys, Doc." Ratchet launched toward the flagship, his medical protocols screaming warnings about entering an active combat zone, his warrior protocols calmly noting that he'd done this 1,000 times before on Cybertron. He was a healer, yes. But before that, he'd been a soldier. He reached Jazz first, finding the smaller Autobot cornered by Starscream, his systems clearly taxed beyond normal operating parameters. The data he'd absorbed was massive, complex, and his processors were struggling to maintain coherence while analyzing it. "Jazz." Ratchet's weapon spoke, forcing Starscream to break off his attack. "Transfer the data to me. Distributed processing, we'll analyze it together." Jazz didn't argue, transmitting the stolen intelligence to Ratchet's systems even as they both engaged Starscream. The Seeker, realizing he now faced two opponents working in perfect coordination, made the tactical decision to retreat. Decepticon honor only went so far when personal survival was at stake. Ratchet's medical computers absorbed the data and immediately flagged critical elements. Clone inhibitor chips. Jedi purge protocols. Something called Order 66. A systematic plan to eliminate Force users across the galaxy using the Republic's own army as the weapon. "By the Allspark," Ratchet whispered. "Optimus needs to see this. Now. He transmitted the critical data to Optimus Prime just as Megatron landed another devastating hit, cracking the Autobot leader's chest plate dangerously close to his spark chamber. Optimus stumbled, energon leaking from multiple wounds, his systems entering emergency power conservation mode. But his processors absorbed Ratchet's transmission. Understood its implications. Recognized that this changed everything. Megatron, Optimus said quietly, his voice carrying across their private channel, we need to stop fighting. Surrender? Megatron laughed harshly. After millions of years, you're finally admitting defeat? Not surrender, Optimus corrected. Temporary truce. There's something in this galaxy far more dangerous than either of our factions. Something that's been manipulating this entire war toward a conclusion that will make Cybertron's fall look like a preliminary exercise. You're stalling, Megatron accused, though his tactical computers were noting unusual patterns in the battle's progression, too convenient, too orchestrated, too much like the kind of strategic manipulation he himself would employ. I'm trying to prevent mass genocide, Optimus stated flatly. And if you have any of the Megatron I once called brother left inside you, you'll listen. Something in Optimus's tone made Megatron pause. They had been friends once, before ideology and war had driven them apart. And beneath all the hatred, all the violence, some fragment of that friendship remained, enough to make Megatron listen. Talk quickly, Prime. My patience is limited. Optimus transmitted the data Ratchet had provided, all of it, unfiltered, allowing Megatron to see the full scope of what they'd discovered. The Decepticon leader's optics widened as his tactical computers processed the implications. They're using clone soldiers as sleeper assassins, Megatron said slowly. Programmed to turn on their Jedi commanders on signal. Efficient. Ruthless. Brilliant, actually. Brilliant? Optimus's voice carried disbelief. Megatron, this is systematic extermination of an entire faction through betrayal. Yes, Megatron agreed. Which is exactly the kind of strategy one would use. Which means whoever planned this thinks like a Decepticon. He paused, his processors running scenarios. But it's also extraordinarily wasteful. Killing all the Jedi removes a powerful force from the galaxy. Why would the Republic's leader order it unless he's not actually serving the Republic, Optimus finished. Unless he's the Sith Lord the Jedi have been searching for. Unless this entire war has been a trap designed to position him for absolute power. The two ancient enemies stood in the wreckage of their battle, surrounded by the carnage of a war neither of them had started, and reached an unspoken understanding. This was bigger than their conflict. This was a threat to the entire galaxy, and neither Autobot nor Decepticon principles could accept allowing such manipulation to succeed unchallenged. Temporary truce, Megatron stated formally, the words clearly causing him physical pain. Until this Sith is dealt with. Then we resume our war. Agreed, Optimus replied. Now we need to warn the Jedi before. A pulse of dark energy swept across the ship, across the planet, across the entire star system. It wasn't detectable by normal sensors, but the Transformers, existing outside the Force, felt it pass through them like a shockwave of malevolent intent. And on every battlefront across the galaxy, in every combat zone where Jedi fought alongside clone troopers, the chips activated. Order 66 had begun. On the flagship's bridge, Palpatine's expression shifted from frightened politician to dark satisfaction as he felt his plan activate through the Force. Millions of connections, all triggered simultaneously, all serving his grand design. The Jedi Order would be extinct within hours. Unless two factions of mechanical warriors from beyond the stars decided to interfere. Anakin Skywalker felt the disturbance through the Force, something vast and dark and wrong spreading across the galaxy like corruption through water. Master, what? Obi-Wan Kenobi's expression had gone pale as he too sensed the disturbance. Anakin, something terrible is happening. We need to. The door burst open and Optimus Prime entered, his massive frame barely fitting through the bulkhead, his optics blazing with urgent intensity. Behind him, impossibly, stood Megatron, his weapons lowered in temporary peace. "Jedi," Optimus stated without preamble, "your clone soldiers have been compromised. There's a kill order targeting all Force users. It's activating right now. And I believe," he turned his gaze to Palpatine, "your Chancellor is the one who gave the command." Palpatine's expression didn't change, but his eyes shifted to yellow for just a moment before he suppressed the transformation. It was enough. Everyone in the room saw it. Understood it. Recognized what they were facing. "Ah," Darth Sidious said, dropping his elderly politician persona like a discarded cloak, his voice becoming something cold and infinitely dangerous. "The variables reveal themselves. How inconvenient." The final confrontation had begun, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Would the Transformers' intervention be enough to stop a plan generations in the making? Or would even their ancient power prove insufficient against a Sith Lord at the height of his influence? The answer would be written in the coming hours, in battles across 1,000 worlds, in choices made by warriors from 2 universes trying to save a third. The Clone Wars were about to end. What came next would be either salvation or holocaust, freedom or tyranny, life or extinction. And for the first time in their long war, Autobots and Decepticons would fight on the same side, not because they trusted each other, but because the alternative was unthinkable. The revelation of Darth Sidious's identity sparked a battle that would be remembered across 2 galaxies, one born of the Force, one born of energon and metal. When the ancient Sith Lord unleashed Force lightning powerful enough to have killed any organic being, Optimus Prime and Megatron absorbed the assault with their Cybertronian frames, their sensors screaming warnings but their armor holding. The dark side of the Force was powerful, but it was energy like any other, and the Transformers had been built to endure the fury of dying stars. "Interesting," Sidious hissed, his yellow eyes blazing as he realized these beings existed outside his carefully constructed web of manipulation. "You cannot be turned. You cannot be corrupted. You simply are." "We are autonomous beings," Optimus stated, his weapons trained on the Sith Lord while Anakin and Obi-Wan moved to flank. "And we will not allow you to exterminate an entire order to satisfy your lust for power." The battle that followed tested everyone to their limits. Sidious was perhaps the most powerful Sith in 1,000 years, his mastery of the dark side refined through decades of patient planning. But he faced 2 Jedi at their peak, supported by 2 Cybertronian warriors who had survived 4 million years of the most brutal warfare imaginable. The Transformers couldn't be sensed through the Force, making them unpredictable. They couldn't be manipulated through fear or temptation. They were simply obstacles that had to be destroyed, and Sidious discovered that destroying beings forged in Cybertron's depths was far more difficult than he'd anticipated. The turning point came when Megatron, of all beings, made a choice that surprised everyone including himself. When Sidious's Force lightning found a gap in the defenses and struck toward Anakin Skywalker, the young Jedi who the Sith Lord had spent years grooming as his future apprentice, Megatron moved to intercept. Not out of altruism, but out of cold tactical calculation, Sidious needed Skywalker turned to the dark side to complete his plan, which meant keeping the Jedi alive denied the Sith Lord his victory. "I decide who lives and dies in this galaxy," Megatron growled as he absorbed the lightning meant for Anakin, not some robed organic who thinks power is measured in mystical forces. It was enough. With Sidious distracted and the Transformers creating openings impossible to predict through Force precognition, Obi-Wan Kenobi struck the decisive blow, not killing the Sith Lord, but severing his connection to the vast dark side network he'd woven across decades. The disturbance rippled through the Force like a wave, disrupting the hold Order 66 had on clone troopers across the galaxy long enough for Jedi to escape, to understand what was happening, to survive. The Clone Wars ended not with the Jedi purged but with Palpatine exposed, his decades of manipulation revealed to the galaxy. The transition was messy, some systems remained loyal to him, creating what would become the Imperial remnant. Others rallied behind the Jedi and senators like Bail Organa to rebuild the Republic properly. The galaxy fractured, but it fractured toward eventual healing rather than toward tyranny. For the Transformers, the aftermath brought resolution of a different kind. With the Separatist war machine collapsing and Decepticon forces depleted, Megatron made a calculation. This galaxy offered resources and opportunity, but it also offered endless resistance from beings who had learned to fight with Autobot principles. The cost of conquest had become too high. "This isn't over, Prime," Megatron stated as Decepticon forces prepared to leave known space, seeking distant regions where they might rebuild without constant opposition. "When we're strong again, when we've rebuilt our forces, we'll return. And next time, there won't be Jedi or clone troopers to tip the balance." "I know," Optimus replied wearily. "But for now, beings in this galaxy have a chance to determine their own future. That's worth the cost of our conflict continuing." As for the Autobots, Republic scientists and engineers, working from data the Transformers provided, eventually succeeded in creating a stable space bridge. Not back to their original universe, but to a dimensional pocket where energon synthesis was possible and where they could exist without constantly fighting. Optimus Prime stood at the threshold of that portal, looking back at a galaxy he'd fought to protect, at Jedi who had become allies, at clone troopers who had proven that even beings created for war could choose their own path. "Will you ever return?" Obi-Wan Kenobi asked, the Jedi Master's expression showing genuine sadness at their departure. "If this galaxy needs us," Optimus replied, "we'll find a way. The Autobots protect those who cannot protect themselves. That principle transcends dimensions." Master Yoda, present for the Autobots' departure, tapped his walking stick thoughtfully. "Learned much from you, we have. That the Force, not everything is. That courage, many forms takes. That sacrifice, not always through the Force flows, but from the spark within. Grateful, the Jedi are. Remember you, we will." One by one, the Autobots stepped through the portal, Jazz, Ironhide, Bumblebee, Ratchet, each pausing to acknowledge the beings they'd fought beside. And finally, Optimus Prime transformed one last time in the Star Wars galaxy, his vehicle mode a reminder that even the mightiest warriors could adapt, could change form while maintaining their essential nature, could survive any challenge by holding true to their principles. The portal closed, leaving the galaxy to heal its wounds and forge its future. The Clone Wars had ended not as Sidious planned, with Jedi extinction and Sith dominance, but with a fractured galaxy learning to question authority, to value individual choice, to remember that true strength comes not from power but from principle. In the years that followed, stories spread across the galaxy about the metal warriors from beyond the stars, beings who had fought not for territory or conquest, but simply because it was right. Younglings training to become Jedi learned about Optimus Prime's sacrifice at Ryloth. Military academies studied the tactical innovations the Transformers brought to warfare. And in the shadows of Coruscant, in the places where the desperate and downtrodden gathered, they whispered a new hope, that if beings from another universe could come to protect them, perhaps they too could find the strength to protect each other. The Autobots had left the Star Wars galaxy, but their impact would endure. They had proven that heroism transcends species, that courage requires no force sensitivity, and that sometimes the greatest power is simply the willingness to stand between innocence and harm, regardless of the cost. Somewhere in a dimensional pocket between realities, Optimus Prime stood among his warriors, their forms finally resting after millennia of constant warfare. They had found a place where energon flowed freely, where the war with the Decepticons could pause, where they could remember what they had been before combat consumed their civilization. "Do you think we made a difference?" Bumblebee's vocal processors asked, the young warrior finally able to articulate thoughts that his limited speech had struggled to express. "We saved lives," Optimus replied, his optics dimmed in contemplation. "We gave beings a chance to choose their own destiny. We proved that Autobot principles can survive even in alien galaxies. Whether that constitutes making a difference, history will judge." "I think," Ratchet observed quietly, his medical sensors finally able to relax after months of emergency operations, "that we reminded ourselves why we fight. Not just against Decepticons, but for something. For the belief that every sentient being deserves protection, deserves freedom, deserves the chance to become more than what they were created to be." Heavy philosophy for a medic, Ironhide rumbled, though his tone carried affection. I learned it from our leader, Ratchet replied, inclining his head toward Optimus. Who spent 4 million years refusing to give up on that philosophy even when our entire world died because of it. Optimus Prime looked out across their dimensional sanctuary, his processors already calculating how long they could remain before Energon demands would force them to venture forth again, how many cycles they had before the Decepticons inevitably found them, how much peace they could claim before war resumed. But for now, for this moment, they could rest. They had earned it. They had fought in a galaxy not their own, saved beings whose names they could barely pronounce, and proven that the Autobot cause was more than just Cybertronian tribalism. It was universal. Till all are one, Optimus said quietly, the ancient Cybertronian blessing carrying weight earned through sacrifice and choice. Till all are one, his warriors echoed, and for the first time in millions of years, they believed it might someday be true. The Star Wars galaxy continued its rotation through space and time, forever changed by the brief presence of beings from beyond its borders. The Force remained, binding all living things together in its invisible web. But those who had witnessed the Transformers now understood that life took forms beyond the Force's reach, that heroism required no mystical power, and that sometimes the greatest hope came not from prophecy or destiny, but from beings who simply chose to do what was right. In the Jedi Temple's archives, a new section was created, records of the Clone Wars' final days, of the beings who existed outside the Force, of the lessons learned from warriors who measured their existence not in years but in millennia. Future Jedi would study those records and understand that their order, for all its power and wisdom, did not hold monopoly on truth or virtue. And somewhere in the galaxy, in a cantina on a backwater world, an old clone trooper who had fought on Christophsis bought drinks for anyone willing to listen to his story about the 40-foot-tall metal being who absorbed a fusion bomb to protect civilians he'd never met, who fell defending those who couldn't defend themselves, who proved that courage transcends species and sacrifice transcends self-interest. They called him Optimus Prime, the veteran would say, his voice carrying the reverence of someone who had witnessed something beyond his understanding but within his appreciation. And if there's a force in the universe with any sense at all, it'll remember him. The Force, as it happened, did remember. And across the vast expanse of space and time, in ways beings would never fully comprehend, the echo of Autobot principles continued to resonate, a reminder that freedom is the right of all sentient beings, that protection of innocence is the highest calling. And that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is simply the choice to be better than you have to be. The Transformers had landed in the Star Wars galaxy, fought its wars, learned its lessons, and departed. But the legend of beings who existed outside destiny, who chose heroism without prophecy, who protected without power beyond their own determination, that legend would endure. For in the end, that's what legends do. They transcend their origins, inspire beyond their lifetimes, and remind every generation that heroism is a choice, not a gift. And that choice, more than any force or any spark, is what truly binds all beings together across every galaxy, every universe, every reality that has ever existed or ever will. Till all are one.